Chapter 94. Quick, look at the person who issued the quest. Why is it anonymous? Quest details. Destroy the marriage between Sir John Germain and Lady Minnery. The successful party will receive 200,000 gold coins as a reward. Quick, look at the requirements. There is no level restriction for adventurers. This is too lucky. Doesn't this mean that low-level adventurers like us can also do this quest? There was no level requirement for adventurers. When a juror heard this, he immediately ran to the front desk to find the receptionist and expressed his desire to accept the quest. "I'm sorry, but you can't accept this quest." The receptionist smiled and said good-naturedly, "What? Didn't you say that there is no level restriction?" A juror's eyes were red as he looked at the receptionist angrily. It was obvious that he couldn't accept this. Feng Wu stood aside obediently and looked at the obviously angry juror. "You're right. There is no level restriction for this quest, but this is a team quest. Only a team of 5 or more people can accept it." The receptionist directly flashed a quest list and let a juror see the small words on it. "Fuck. What kind of stupid rule is this?" A juror scolded angrily, but he had to accept this reality. "This little brother, are you worried about forming a team to do the mission? It just so happens that the 3 of us also want to do this 200,000 yuan mission, but we don't have enough people to accept it. Why don't we make do with it?" The person who spoke had long gray hair and black eyes. He looked very confident and handsome. Yes. There are 2 of you and 3 of us. There are 5 of us. How about it? Make do." This time, it was a girl who spoke. The girl was beautiful and generous. Her skin was as white as snow, and her long legs were wrapped in a swordmaster's uniform. Although she wasn't a great beauty, she was delicate and charming. Ajur thought about it and agreed. It would be difficult for him to find 3 people to form a team now. It would be better to add these 3 guys. If they had any malicious intentions, Ajur wasn't afraid of fighting with them. "Please give your team a name." The receptionist said, "Berserker. This name has already been registered." "World. This name can't be used." "Berserker." The beautiful receptionist shook her head. "Zhou Xiao." He continued to shake his head. "Long tongue." He still shook his head. "Why go through so much trouble? Let's just call him Expert." A juror could no longer enjoy looking at people and shaking his head endlessly. Although these names were all thought up by the 3 of them, he only thought of this one. "All right, the Expert team has been successfully registered." Just like that, a small team named Experts was finally registered. It was really worth celebrating. The 5 of them finally accepted the quest. After accepting the quest, the 5 of them found a noodle restaurant to eat ramen. There weren't many people in the noodle house, and the 5 of them had taken up an entire floor. "Let me introduce myself first. My name is Tingyu. This guy is my twin brother, Tingfeng." Let him introduce the one beside him. The only girl among the 3 pointed at a cute boy with dark blue hair. Upon a closer look, the 2 of them did look similar. They both had dark blue hair and eyes. It was hard not to think that they were a family. "My name is Pei Qing. I'm a space magician. I'll allow you to call me Little Qing." Pei Qing combed his waist-length hair and pretended to be generous. "Ignore this guy. He's a pervert. He's only interested in women's stuff. His hobby is to collect women's makeup powder, clothes, and all kinds of beautiful jewelry. What do you think? Isn't he perverted enough?" Tingyu glared at Pei Qing in disdain. Pei Qing pretended not to see it. "You two, from the looks of it, are you students of Notre Dame du Starlight?" The cute boy listened to the wind and finished his big bowl of meat noodles. He wiped his mouth with a tissue and said with a very cute smile. Ajur was silent for a moment. It was the first time he saw someone who ate just a little slower than Feng Wu. "My name is Ajur. I'm a fire magician. This is Swordmistress Feng Wu. But how did you know that we're from Notre Dame du Starlight?" Ajur frowned. They had changed their clothes. How did this guy know who they were? "I was right. I knew I was right. Your Notre Dame du Starlight will give out strange missions to earn money every year when new students enter the school. That's why 9 out of 10 young people who enter the Adventurers Guild to register as adventurers are new students who specifically register as adventurers." "Xiao Wu, why aren't you saying anything? Say something." Tingyu was very interested in the only person of the same sex. She moved closer to Fengwu and smiled cutely. Fengwu blinked. Hello. She looked at Tingyu and the other two seriously and greeted them. Hello. You don't have to be so serious. We'll be more casual. Tingyu scratched her head. She didn't understand why the atmosphere had become so serious. All right, let's cut the small talk. What do you think about this mission? Let's hear it. A juror finished his bowl and wiped his mouth elegantly. Shouldn't the leader be the one to think of a solution? Tingyu smiled innocently. Tingfeng and Pei Qing looked at a juror at the same time. Their expressions said, "It's all up to you." A juror really wanted to chop them up. You're telling me that you won't think of a solution and won't do anything. Then why did I form a team with you? Let's just disband. A juror smiled coldly. He had no interest in being a sucker. That's not impossible. We're in charge of executing the mission. The leader is in charge of thinking. Look at how clear the manpower is. What do you think? Tingfeng immediately tried to curry favor with a juror when she heard his tone. You'll listen to whatever I say? A juror looked at the three of them playfully. Yes, of course. Tingyu and the other two nodded vigorously. All right then, let me talk about it first. Our mission is to break up Sir John Germain and Lady Minori's marriage. Who knows when their wedding will be? A juror knew nothing about these two mission targets. He could only hope that these three monsters would be of some use. I know. Tingfeng, who was the cutest, raised her hand excitedly. Their wedding will be held in 2 months. 2 more months? That's plenty of time. A juror nodded. Then, he asked, what do you know about these two mission targets? I know. Sir John Germain is a young aristocrat. I heard that his family is very rich, and he's very popular with women. As for Lady Minori, there aren't many rumors about her. I only heard that she's a peerless beauty. Moreover, she's the cousin of the Empress of the Soya Empire. She's so high in status. Pei Qing sighed. Pei Qing was also a handsome man. Why weren't there any rich and beautiful women who wanted to marry him? Chapter 95. The location of the mission is in the Soya Empire. A juror was so focused on the 200,000 reward that he didn't notice that the location of the mission was quite far away. Although the Soya Empire wasn't a big country, it was still quite famous among the medium-sized empires. Yeah, isn't it written on the mission list? Tingyu blinked innocently. What should we do now? Should we go to the Soya Empire immediately? Pei Qing asked excitedly. No, Xiaowu and I have something else to do. We'll go to the Soya Empire after we're done with this. A juror shook his head and rejected the suggestion. What is it? The three asked in unison. Looking for the dog. The three of them, Fengwu. She held the cup and sipped water. Because Ijur and Fengwu had accepted a dog mission, the 5 of them naturally postponed their trip to the Soya Empire. At this moment, the 5 of them were standing in front of the mission issuer's door. Are we going to visit the owner? Pei Qing combed his long hair. A juror couldn't be bothered with the 3 monsters who insisted on following them. Xiao Wu, it's up to you. Okay. Fengwu responded and walked to a big tree. She placed her hand on the tree trunk and closed her eyes. What is she doing? Tingyu asked. Is she absorbing the wood's spiritual energy? Tingfeng touched her chin in surprise. Yeah, I don't understand, Pei Qing said seriously. SK, you don't understand and you're still talking about it. Tingyu and Tingfeng chased after Pei Qing and gave each of them a popcorn popper. A juror just stood at the side and chuckled calmly. Would he tell these fish-lipped mortals what his Xiao Wu was doing? Let them guess. Over there. About 2 minutes later, Fengwu put down her hand and pointed in a direction. Let's go. It's time to work, a juror ordered, and everyone followed the direction that Fengwu pointed. Not long after, Fengwu found a tree and placed her palm on it. Not long after, she pointed in another direction and the 5 of them started running in the same direction. After repeating this process many times, the owner of the dog was finally found in an abandoned hut. However, the dog's leg seemed to be injured. There were dried bloodstains on its leg. When he walked over to take a look, it turned out that its leg was really broken. When Xiao Kuang saw someone coming over, it barked pitifully, which made people feel sad. Fuck, who is so cruel to actually do such a thing to a dog? Tingyu was an ordinary girl. Girls usually had no resistance to cute animals. Now that such a cute puppy was seriously injured in front of her, the little girl's eyes turned red with heartache. Fengwu squatted down and carefully picked up the little thing. The puppy seemed to like Fengwu very much. It kept barking, as if it was complaining to its mother. Take it to see a doctor. Fengwu looked at Ajur seriously. Ajur had always known Fengwu. This girl didn't talk much, but every time she spoke, she was serious. Ajur didn't want to stop Fengwu from taking the dog to see a doctor. Not now. We have to let the owner see that her baby is injured. Only then will she find the bad guy. Xiaowu also wants the bad guy to be punished, right? Ajur stroked the girl's head and smoothed her hair very skillfully. The girl lowered her head and thought for a while. Finally, she nodded and agreed. The five of them headed towards the place where the mission issuer lived. When the servants guarding the door saw that they had returned with their master's dog, they were all overjoyed. They immediately rushed into the villa to report the good news to their master. Not long after, Fengwu and the others were invited in by the dog's owner. The dog's owner was a widow who had lost her husband. Moreover, she was a very rich widow. Thank you, adventurers. Thank you for helping me find my baby. When the chubby woman saw the puppy in Fengwu's arms, she immediately rushed in front of Fengwu and reached out her chubby hands to hug her precious dog. No, it's injured. Fengwu stepped back, and the chubby woman naturally missed. The chubby woman was a little unhappy at first, but when she heard Fengwu's words, she immediately became nervous. Her husband had died, and she didn't have any children. Naturally, she doted on her only pet dog. When she heard that her baby was injured, how could she not be nervous? How could it be injured? Who did it? When I find him, I'll skin him alive. The chubby woman's heart ached. When she thought of the bad guy who hurt her baby, she couldn't help but want to cut him into pieces. We don't know yet. When we found it, its leg was already broken, and there were bloodstains on its body. Tingyu looked at the puppy in Fengwu's arms with pity. Naturally, she didn't have a good impression of the person who hurt a small animal. Quick, go get a doctor. Go get a doctor. When the chubby woman heard that her baby's leg was broken, she panicked and called for a doctor. After the servant who went to get a doctor left, a 15 or 16-year-old girl came in with a tray. On the tray was a big pot of flower tea and a few clean cups. This woman was obviously a servant in the house. However, this girl looked very fair and clean, which made her very likable. The girl put down the cup and poured tea for the 5 people and the chubby woman. She bowed and turned to leave. Wait a minute. You have to apologize to the baby. Fengwu suddenly looked at the maid angrily. What's wrong? What's going on? The chubby woman looked at the maid and then at Fengwu suspiciously. This maid was one of her favorite maids. The little girl was very cute. She worked as a maid for her family and was very diligent. Madam, don't you understand? Your maid is probably the one who hurt your baby. Ajur was indeed Fengwu's good friend. He understood the gist of what Fengwu said. When Fengwu heard that Ajur understood what she meant, her eyes curved slightly. It was obvious that she was in a good mood. After hearing Ajur's words, the young maid's face turned as pale as a sheet of paper. Even the tray in her hand fell to the ground. Obviously, she was quite frightened. After a while, the maid seemed to come to her senses. She shook her head desperately and cried, No, it's not me. Madam, I didn't. I'm innocent. The chubby woman, who was about to lose her temper, couldn't bear to see her crying so miserably. Are you sure? This kind of thing can't be said without evidence. Nana has been working in my house for a long time. I have always taken good care of her. How could she hurt my baby? The chubby woman was a kind person. Thinking of Nana's usual behavior, it was hard to believe that she would hurt a cute little animal. Chapter 96. I believe in Fengwu. What Xiaowu said must be true. Ajur directly ignored the weeping Vanna. He didn't have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. Ajur believed in Fengwu 100%. Even if Fengwu couldn't produce any evidence in the end, he still believed in her. Young masters, young miss, how can you ruin my reputation without any evidence? Although I am just a little maid, I also know how to repay kindness. Madam's kindness to me is as heavy as a mountain. How can I hurt Madam's beloved pet? After hearing Ajur's words, Vanna secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then she cried even more pitifully. Her face was full of innocence. I don't have any evidence, but Bao Bao can prove that it was you who took it out and hurt it. Fengwu didn't like Vanna. Since childhood, Fengwu was a good child who loved small animals. She didn't have any good feelings for bad people like Vanna who hurt small animals. Bao Bao can't speak at all. How can it prove anything? Vanna heard this and looked at Fengwu incredulously. What a joke, letting a dog testify. She thought that there was really a capable person who came, but it turned out to be just an idiot. Vanna secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She knew that if what she did was discovered by Madame, her end would definitely not be good, so she would not admit to taking away and hurting Bao Bao. As long as she insisted, she didn't believe that these adventurers could do anything to her. Miss Fengwu, Vanna is right. My Bao Bao can't speak. How can it testify for you? Madame shook her head and laughed. If I say it can, then it can. Fengwu looked at Madame seriously. She wanted Madame to say that she didn't lie. Master said that lying was not good, so she never lied. Baby, if she's the one who scratched or hurt you, just scream twice. If she's not, just scream once. Fengwu pointed at Vanna, who was still standing there in a daze. The puppy first glanced at Vanna with obvious fear in its eyes. Although it hadn't barked yet, the look in its eyes was enough to say that something was wrong. Bao Bao was originally very afraid of the bad person who threw him away and hurt him, but under Fengwu's encouragement, he bravely barked twice at Vanna. Although Bao Bao had never seen the girl holding it, it liked the smell of her body. She must be a good person. Puppies' thoughts were very simple. Their judgment of good and evil was often more accurate than humans. What else do you have to say, Vanna? The fat lady didn't have to trust Fengwu and the other strangers, but she had to trust her dog. After seeing the frightened look in her baby's eyes and hearing the two barks, the fat lady had to believe that the maid who had thrown her baby away was the one who had taken good care of her. Wana could see that the situation was over. She sat on the ground and cried, "How could this be? How could this be? It's all your fault. Why did you have to take that stinky dog back? Why did you have to be so meddlesome?" Wana let out two angry roars. She hated Fengwu to the bone for putting her in such a situation. "Wana, I don't think I've done anything wrong to you. You know how important Bao Bao is to me. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can come to me. Why did you hurt Bao Bao? What does Bao Bao know?" The fat lady was really angry. She really did not expect that the maid she had been kind to would treat her like this. "Why? You ask me why? Hee, madam, you're obviously so rich. Why didn't you help my family? You'd rather spend money on a stinky dog than help my family. Don't you love that dog very much? I deliberately took it out and broke its legs so that it could never come back. It could only starve to death on the street. Let's see how you treasure that dog." Wana was obviously ready to break the pot. She did not plead for mercy for herself at first. Instead, she began to criticize her master. "Didn't I help you? Your father's business failed. Your family owed a large amount of debt. Who helped you deal with it? Your mother was seriously ill. Who gave you money to hire a doctor? Your family was so poor that they didn't even have a place to live. I helped your family find a cheap house. Even your brother's job and your father's job were found by me. Speak with your conscience. I've done so much. Isn't it enough to help you? Do I have to give you all my wealth to help you?" The fat lady sneered as she spoke. She didn't know whether she was laughing at Wana's ingratitude or laughing at her own blindness. She mistook the ingrate for a little white rabbit. After listening to the fat lady's words, Tingyu and the others realized that the fat lady was so good to this Wana. They really didn't see it. Originally, they thought that she was a person who was difficult to get along with. "If you want to help me, why don't you help me pay off all the money? Why do you want my family of 4 to pay off the debt with such a meager income? You said that you want to help me, but you just want to highlight your kindness. A hypocritical person like you only deserves to have a dog to accompany you." The more Wana said, the more vicious she became. The more she said, the more she felt that what she said was reasonable. What did she mean by doing so much for her? What kindness? This was simply hypocrisy. She just wanted to use her kindness to earn a good reputation for herself. What was the use of a fat widow's reputation? She was still not liked by men. "So that's what you think of me. Since you think I'm a hypocrite, why do you still want to work for my family and enjoy the benefits I give you? Since you think I'm being nice to you because I'm up to no good, you can totally reject it and find another job. But you didn't do that. You stay in my family and enjoy the benefits I give you, but behind my back, you feel that you are being used by others and that others don't sincerely help you. You are the real hypocrite. Although the fat lady had a good heart, she was by no means a saint. After paying a certain amount of affection, she was said to be hypocritical. Even if she had more feelings for Wana, it was all gone because Wana bit the hand that fed her. Wana's face twisted when she heard the fat lady's words. It was because her family was too poor that she had to accept the fat lady's charity. That was why she hated the fat lady so much. Well, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Housekeeper, immediately send this maid to the city lord's mansion. I can't afford to have this ungrateful maid. Since you think that I'm hypocritical, then your family should still be the same. I don't want to be hated by others after doing a good deed. Chapter 97. The fat lady waved her hand, and the housekeeper immediately went over to grab Vanna's hand, wanting to drag her out. When Vanna heard the fat lady's decision, she felt bad. No, you can't do this. You can't hurt my family. Vanna crazily shouted. Her eyes were full of hatred. This lady is not like you. I don't have a vicious heart. Although this lady won't do anything to your family, I will take back all the benefits they got from this lady. Your family has nothing. From now on, you will continue to live with nothing. The fat lady's mouth hung a trace of a sneer. Daring to make a move on her baby, she should think of the consequences. The housekeeper grabbed Vanna and dragged her out. The fat lady's housekeeper was also a swordsman, and his strength was not low. Grabbing Vanna was like grabbing a chicken. Vanna still wanted to struggle, but unfortunately, she was just an ordinary person. How could she escape from the hands of a swordsman? The housekeeper grabbed Vanna and walked out. For someone like Vanna, this was the first time she saw a maid like her. She had never seen such an unconscientious maid who took her master's kindness for granted. Who did she think she was? A mere maid, daring to have resentment towards her master and even daring to hurt her master's pet. This kind of disloyal maid, the city lord's mansion would naturally have people to deal with her. Tingyu and the other two were surprised. It was also the first time they saw a maid like Vanna who didn't understand the situation. They felt that the world was really wonderful. Sure enough, there were all kinds of birds in the forest. After seeing that the baby was cured, Fengwu left the fat lady's house with Ajur and the others. The fat lady readily confirmed that Fengwu had completed the task. As long as she went to the Adventurers Guild to submit the task, the reward of 500 gold coins could be received. The next day, Fengwu and Ajur both asked for leave. They planned to leave for the Soya Empire early in the morning. Although the task was still 2 months away, there were still a lot of people who had accepted the task. What if someone had a sudden burst of luck and completed the task? After asking for leave, Ajur and the others prepared for the next day to gather at the transmission array. But when they were about to leave, they found a not too big nor too small problem. You three mean you have no money? Ajur's smile was peaceful, but it made people feel a bone-deep murderous aura. We have no money. All of our money was used to register as adventurers. The rest is just a little living expenses, adding up to less than 10 gold coins. Tingyu carefully hid behind her brother, afraid that Ajur would be impulsive and break her cute little neck. Don't be like this, we'll just take it as a loan. When we get the money, we'll pay back what we owe you. Tingfeng looked at Ajur with a kind face. They all knew that although Ajur and Fengwu were both rich, Ajur was obviously the one in charge, so if they wanted to borrow money, they could only ask Ajur. If they dared to borrow money directly from Fengwu, they were afraid that Ajur would directly send a fireball to each of them. That's right. We'll definitely pay it back. As long as we get this 200,000 gold coins, each of us will get at least 40,000 gold coins. We won't refuse to pay back what we owe, Pei Qing quickly said, afraid that he would be turned into a human barbecue by this ferocious guy. If you want me to help pay for it, that's fine. But when you pay back the money, you have to pay back double. Ajur was not a person who was willing to suffer a loss. With one look, he knew that these guys were going to eat them up. It would be strange if he let them have their way. Pei Qing and the other two had no choice but to obediently nod and enter the teleportation array, one by one like abused wives. When the five of them came out of the teleportation array, they had already arrived at the Soya Empire. The Soya Empire was different from the Ice Mound Kingdom, which had ice and snow all year round. Here, it was like spring all year round. Even when it was winter, the weather was not very cold. Walking on the streets, one could easily see hawkers selling things and pedestrians playing on the streets. Let's go. Let's find a place to stay first before we discuss further. Pei Qing had already walked out of the pain of being forced to pay double the teleportation array fee. As soon as he arrived at the Soya Empire, he was full of energy again. He even curiously looked around to see if there was anything suitable for his collection. Taking the teleportation array is really fast. Back when we first came out, we all took the flying beast carriage. Although it was a double room, it took too long. I stayed in the flying beast carriage for half a month. I was bored to death. After enjoying the high speed of the teleportation array and thinking about the flying beast carriage, Tingyu decisively turned on her complaining mode. Tingfeng nodded vigorously at the side. It was obvious that she agreed with Tingyu's words. Xiao Wu, do you want to eat some of the Soya Empire's specialty snacks? Ajur was too lazy to pay attention to the three monsters. He held Fengwu's little hand and brought her to the snack stall. Yes. The Fengwu girl's eyes sparkled. She looked extremely cute. Don't be like this. We are a small team. If you want to eat, let's go together. The three of them quickly shouted and followed. The capital city of the Soya Empire was full of people. Walking on the streets, one could see the snack stalls everywhere. It was simply dazzling. There were many kinds of specialty snacks here. Not only were they snacks from the Soya Empire, but there were also many civilians from other countries who came here to do business. They all sold the flavors of their own hometown. The group of five started to eat from the first snack stall and ate to their heart's content. In order to eat something delicious, Tingyu and the other two borrowed from the loan sharks. When they borrowed, they were all frowning, but when the food was in their mouths, they were all grinning from ear to ear. Little girl, do you want to try my family's secret sesame seed cake? It's guaranteed to be delicious. Eat mine. Eat mine. My family's snacks have been passed down for hundreds of years. When the hawkers saw Fengwu and the others approaching, they immediately greeted them. Although there was a lot of traffic, the hawkers who sold snacks also wanted to attract more customers. The hawkers were just short of using all kinds of martial arts. Fengwu took a fancy to a shop that sold roast duck. The five of them went in to eat roast duck together. They didn't expect to see someone who shouldn't be there when they went up to the second floor. Senior Ming Shi. When Fengwu saw the figure sitting on the second floor drinking tea, her eyes lit up. How unlucky. They had already walked to the Soya Empire and still bumped into him. Why did this guy come out and walk around for no reason? Couldn't he just stay in the academy? Ajur was blatantly biased. Why didn't he think about the fact that they were the ones who came later? This can't be the legendary brave little junior, right? Elena suddenly thought of the identity of the person who came. Her whole body immediately ignited with a strong flame of gossip. Chapter 98. You have to be careful. I have a bad feeling when I see Elena's eyes. Argyros couldn't help but whisper into Ming Shi's ear. Senior Elena likes to tease cute little girls and boys. That girl will definitely be teased later. Ruglas looked at the cute girl in front of him and couldn't help but sigh for the black-haired girl. Is she really the girl who confessed to you and wrote a love letter? I don't think so. This girl doesn't seem to have such a bold personality. Argyros rubbed his chin and asked softly, Eat your food. Even such a big roast duck can't stop you. Ming Shi rolled his eyes at the two and calmly drank his tea. He obviously didn't plan to pay attention to Elena and the others. Skycliff was as silent as ever. He didn't say a word and just kept eating. Skycliff had two hobbies in his life. One was sword practice, and the other was food. In front of these two hobbies, everything else had to stand aside. Junior, are you Fengwu? You wrote a love letter to Ming Shi and even confessed to him. Elena's voice was full of excitement. Her eyes were as bright as magic lamps. It can't be. Xiao Wu is actually so tough. She dared to confess to a senior and write a love letter. If it was my sister, it might be possible. But if it was Xiao Wu, It's simply unbelievable, Tingfeng said while shaking her head. She obviously couldn't accept this fact. Get lost. Tingyu bluntly kicked away her good-for-nothing brother and successfully came to Feng Wu's side. Xiao Wu, quickly tell me what's going on. That peerlessly handsome man over there is your sweetheart, right? No wonder Xiao Wu would confess to him. How can there be such a good-looking man in this world? He's really as beautiful as the moon. Tingyu looked at Ming Shi's face with an infatuated expression. Xiao Wu, you really like that guy. You can't just judge people by their appearance. Some people are golden on the outside but rotten on the inside. You can't be fooled by that pretty boy. Pei Qing, who always thought of himself as a rare handsome man, couldn't stay calm after seeing Ming Shi. How can there be such a good-looking man in this world? This family must have only one face to look at. They must have no strength, no wealth, no wealth. Yes, that must be it. Just as Pei Qing finished speaking, he suddenly felt a biting, cold, murderous intent. He saw a silver flash, and before he could even see what was attacking him, it had already arrived in front of Pei Qing. Just when everyone thought that Pei Qing was doomed, Pei Qing actually disappeared in front of them. When he reappeared, he was hiding behind a jur. Holy shit! Who are you? Why did you attack without saying anything? Pei Qing's face was full of fear as he stuck half of his head out from behind a jur and shouted, "How can this be? I actually didn't stab him. If I did, this guy's character would be bad and he would die. Each of us would get an extra 10,000 gold coins." Tingyu looked at Skycliff in disappointment. Her meaning couldn't be more obvious. Why didn't you work harder and kill that guy? You look like an expert. How can you drop the ball like this? What a pity. Tingfeng was also disappointed. Luckily, I've always been lucky. If I really died and turned into a vengeful spirit, I would ask you for my money back. Pei Qing stuck his head out from behind a jur. You're strong. Fight me. Skycliff completely ignored Tingfeng and Tingyu. He looked directly at Pei Qing, who was hiding behind a jur. Skycliff's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. It was the kind of look that would only appear when he met a worthy opponent. I didn't expect him to be a space magician. Space magicians are very rare even in the sacred court, Arguros said in surprise. They had never seen this young man before. He clearly didn't feel strong, but he was able to dodge Skycliff's attack. How could they not know how fast Skycliff's sword was? They didn't expect such an ordinary-looking young man to be a space magician, and judging from how he successfully dodged Skycliff's attack, this young man's strength wasn't as weak as he appeared to be. This young man's background isn't simple. Don't you think so, Mingxi? Ruglus said. Mingxi nodded calmly without saying anything. He wasn't interested in the background of the people around Fengwu. Mingxi didn't want to have anything to do with Fengwu. He didn't want to be confessed to by the Fengwu girl again. This kind of confession happened every time they met, and the time and place of the confession was so troublesome. Big brother, please spare me. You look like a super master. I'm just a little magician. How can I be your opponent? In order to avoid a strange duel with a master, Pei Qing wanted to throw himself into the dust. Enough. Stop quarreling. Skycliff, go back. If you dare to randomly pull out your sword and stab randomly, I'll go to your room tonight and talk about life with you under the quilt. Elena couldn't stand it anymore and shouted at Skycliff. She just wanted to flirt with the girl. Why was he so difficult to deal with? This threat was obviously very useful to Skycliff. The originally cold, sword-wielding young man's ears suddenly turned a little red. It wasn't clear whether it was from anger or shyness, but it was probably the former. Skycliff glanced at Elena and finally put away his sword. He returned to Mingxi's side and sat down. Good. Now that everyone had left, Elena was finally happy. She grabbed Fengwu's little hand and said, "Come, cute little junior. Come and tell me why you like my little brother Mingxi. He's famous for not getting close to women. Don't look at how gentle he is to girls. In fact, he's the kind of person who cares about everyone but doesn't care about anyone. He has the hidden attribute of being a scumbag. Why don't you consider me? I'm as beautiful as a flower and have a hot body. Which part of me isn't better than that brat?" After hearing this string of bombardment, Ajur's face turned ashen. He slapped Elena's hand away from Fengwu's little hand. Then, he pulled the dazed Fengwu girl to the side. He was afraid that she would be seduced by this shameless female hooligan in front of him. I can't consider you. You can't be Xiao Ye's father. Feng Wu, who had been hidden behind a jur, finally came back to her senses. The first thing she did after coming back to her senses was to say something that was so shocking that it was as if she didn't want to die. Young girl, shouldn't you be fiercely rejecting some female hooligans flirting? What's the meaning of your reaction? Feng Wu, can two women get married in this world? What a strange place. Junior, you really know how to joke? Elena was speechless for the first time. Chapter 99. This junior is really interesting. I support you. Take down our Ming Shi. Arguros shouted at the top of his voice and successfully received a roll of the eyes from Ming Shi. Don't be like this. This junior is quite cute, isn't she? This guy obviously wanted to see the world in chaos. Are you guys family? Feng Wu looked at Arguros suspiciously. We are friends. We are good brothers from the same dorm. We are almost like family. Arguros' gloating smile froze before he explained. Oh, I know. You guys are friends. Just like a juror and I are friends. Feng Wu girl nodded. She understood. Wasn't this obvious? Was it that hard to understand? Come and sit with us. This restaurant's roast duck is delicious. We ordered a lot, but we haven't started eating yet. Come and eat with us. Senior Arguros is treating today. Don't be shy. It's okay to eat a little more. Ruglas stood up and greeted them. Ajur really didn't want to go over. In Ajur's eyes, Mingshi was a pretty boy who kidnapped his cute girl. Naturally, the people with him couldn't be good people. However, in the whole team, only Ajur had a problem with Mingshi and the others. Even Pei Qing, who seemed to have been stabbed by a sword, didn't care at all. As soon as he heard Ruglas calling them over, he and Tingfeng supported Ajur on both sides. Tingyu pulled Feng Wu along. The five of them consciously went over and sat down. The tables on the second floor were very large, and each table could seat 10 people. When the five of them sat down, it was just enough for a table of 10 people. Beast Glass ordered another 5 roast ducks and half a roast demon mutton. The entire table was filled with meat dishes. Not a single vegetable could be seen. Are you all seniors from the same school as our captain? We're in the same team as Captain Ajur and Xiao Wu. My name is Tingyu, and this is my older brother, Tingfeng. The one beside him is Pei Qing. Nice to meet you. Tingyu pulled a roast duck leg and said as she ate. She didn't care that her mouth was oily. Which school are you from? Elena shifted her attention away from Feng Wu. She was interested in the 3 youths who had teamed up with Feng Wu. We're new adventurers from the Adventurers Guild. We're not from any school, said Tingfeng, who was nibbling on a duck's neck. So that's how it is. Did you come to the Soya Empire for a mission? Arguros asked. Mingshi listened to their questions and answers. He slowly cut some roast demon mutton and ate it. He didn't participate in their conversation at all. However, Feng Wu's gaze made him a little uncomfortable. Yes, we're here for a mission. However, the mission must be kept a secret. Even if you're a beauty, I can't tell you. Tingfeng looked at Elena and said seriously, don't just talk about us. Senior Ming Shi, you didn't come to the Soya Empire to play, right? Ajur didn't like Ming Shi for a long time. He wanted to find fault with him whenever he had the chance. We came here to attend a friend's wedding. The wedding is in 2 months. We can also take advantage of this time to go to the Soya Empire to gain experience. Ming Shi just smiled good-naturedly at Ajur's unfriendly attitude. He wasn't unhappy at all. Are you here to attend Sir John Germain and Lady Minori's wedding? Tingyu couldn't help but ask when she heard that the wedding was in 2 months. Are you here to attend the wedding too? Such a coincidence? Arguros and Ruglas exchanged glances. Of course not. We just heard about it. Their wedding is a big event. Everyone in the Soya Empire must know about it, right? Pei Qing responded quickly. As he spoke, he stepped on Tingyu's foot. Can't this guy see that these people are friends with the bride and groom? If they knew that these people teamed up to ruin their friend's wedding, they would definitely kill them in advance. That's right, haha. Tingyu laughed dryly. She cursed Pei Qing in her heart. She cursed him to break his legs. Ming Shi and the others exchanged glances. These guys were suspicious. The mission they were doing was related to the 2 newbies. Ajur secretly cursed. Didn't you see the look in Ming-Shi's eyes? They must be flattering him. He rolled his eyes in his heart. He secretly decided that after this mission, he must part ways with these guys. Being with these monsters would definitely be a burden. Among the group, only Fengwu was the calmest. She was now fully focused on two things: eating and looking at Ming-Shi. Eating and looking at Ming-Shi. Fengwu girl's eyes made Ming-Shi feel like he was some kind of food. It was so strange. After the two parties enjoyed a delightful roast duck feast, they bade each other farewell and left. Ajur and the others did not take this chance encounter to heart. Fengwu was quite happy. She was now working hard towards her goal of making Ming-Shi the father of her child. Unlike Fengwu's group, Ming-Shi and the others noticed the strangeness of Fengwu's group. After they left, they immediately contacted their friends in Central City and asked them to help check if there were any missions related to the wedding. After checking, they found one, and it happened to be the mission that Fengwu's group had accepted. Could this mission be issued by one of German's admirers, his future wife's suitor, or some other faction that doesn't want to see the marriage between the two families? Argyros could only think of these three possibilities. That's not very likely. Although the first and second possibilities are more likely, there aren't many nobles who can spend 200,000 gold coins to issue this mission. Their suitors are about the same age as them, and they are still young masters and mistresses who ask for money from their families. They don't have much money at their disposal. Moreover, with such a large expenditure, it was impossible for their family to not be aware of it. The possibility of them secretly going to the Adventurers Guild to issue such a mission was too low. As for the third possibility, it was more likely than the first two. It's just that it's too high profile. Although the person who issued the mission purposely went to Central City to issue the mission, there's still a risk of it being leaked. It's not something that those old foxes would do. Chapter 100. Ming-Shi pondered for a moment before voicing his opinion. This matter was too strange. There were many possibilities, but none of them seemed likely. Ming-Shi is right. This matter is too strange. However, no matter what the person who issued this mission is, I believe that something big will happen on the day of the wedding. Let's wait and see, Skycliff said coldly. In the end, Ming-Shi and the others' plan to go on an adventure could only be temporarily put on hold. Their friend's wedding was about to be ruined. How could they just leave like that? On the other hand, after Fengwu and the others ate a delicious meal and roast duck, the group lazily went to find a cheap hotel to stay in. The five of them booked 3 rooms, 1 single room and 2 double rooms. Fengwu and Tingyu stayed in one room, Tingfeng and Pei Qing stayed in the other room, and Ajur stayed in the last room. His original words were, "This young master doesn't want to stay in the same room as 2 stinky men." Well, he was the team leader. Moreover, Tingyu and the other 2's expenses were deducted from the mission reward. In order to prevent them from running away and not paying up, he even made them sign an IOU. After a good night's sleep, the group gathered in Ajur's room at noon the next day to discuss the big plan. What do we do now? Are we really going to wait until the day of the wedding to rob the bride or the groom? Tingyu bit her lip and asked lazily. She had slept for too long. She slept until her whole body was lazy. I don't think so. The wedding day will definitely be heavily guarded, and I'm afraid that we won't be the only team that will choose to rob the bride on that day. It's too difficult to snatch a bride from so many strong teams. Tingyu shook his head, directly rejecting this idea. Idiot, do you think I asked you to come here 2 months in advance just to wait for the wedding to start and then rob the bride or groom? You're all so stupid. Don't even mention the fact that I'm in the same team as you. I can't afford to lose face like that. Ajur looked at them with disdain. He didn't have any hope for their IQ at all. Captain, could it be that you've already thought of an idea? Pei Qing approached with a fawning expression. Get lost. Don't disgust me. Ajur bluntly sent him flying. The quest only asked us to disrupt the wedding. It didn't say that we had to steal the bride. Other than disrupting the wedding on the day itself, we can also cancel the wedding, Ajur said with a glint in his eyes. How can I cancel it? Are we going to assassinate one of them? Tingfeng began to come up with a bad idea. You're so stupid. Can't you just destroy their feelings for each other and then cancel the wedding? Pei Qing's intelligence was much more damaged than Tingfeng and Tingyu. Look at him. He hit the nail on the head. Are you talking about a honey trap? Tingfing's eyes lit up. She then looked at the two girls. That's a good idea. Little you and Xiao are both beauties. One of you is pure and cute, while the other is lively and pretty. I don't believe that the two of you can't attract that Sir John Germain. Tingfeng stared at the two girls with sparkling eyes. Tingyu leaned towards Fengwu in fear. Do you have any humanity left in you? We're just two weak girls. You actually want us to seduce German. What if he goes berserk and does something to us? Tingyu immediately refused. She didn't want to seduce a stinky man. She didn't even want to think about it. No, little you. Think about the 200,000 gold coins and the debt we owe Captain. You have to go. And Xiao Wu too. In short, all of our happiness depends on you. Pei Qing looked at the two girls as if he was looking at his saviors. It was as if they were his light, his water, and his world. Shut up. Xiao Wu can't do it. Let Tingyu go. Ajur's face darkened. What he wanted to say was to find a beautiful woman to cause some trouble for the newlyweds. It would be best if she could catch them in bed. He didn't believe that Minali would still marry a man who fooled around before marriage. This noble lady was extremely prideful. Furthermore, Minali came from a good family and was a famous beauty. This kind of woman would definitely be even more prideful. There was no way she would accept a man who had embarrassed her before marriage. Who knew why these guys wanted their people to go and seduce them personally? If they couldn't go, then so be it. It would cost a lot of money to find a new beauty. Tingyu was also quite good-looking. Perhaps German would like her. I don't want to. I'm such a cute and beautiful girl. How can you bear to send me to the tiger's den? Tingyu looked at the group of men pitifully, hoping that these beasts would be merciful and let her go. Why must you seduce German? Why can't you seduce Minori? Fengwu's suspicious voice suddenly sounded. Fengwu was just curious. Why did they have to target a man? Wasn't there a bride? According to them, the bride was fine too. That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Xiao Wu, I love you to death. Why didn't I think about it? You have 3 men, and they're all handsome men. Any one of you can definitely beat that German in terms of looks. So, this quest should have you guys try to seduce him. I believe it will be more successful than my seduction. Tingyu became happier as she spoke. In contrast to Tingyu's good mood, the 3 men felt terrible. They never thought that one day they would need to use their beauty to do a mission. The 3 of you are so good-looking. Minori will definitely like you. Fengwu sat there expressionlessly. She looked at them from head to toe, and finally came to this conclusion. There was no need. They didn't want to be liked by Minori at all, in the end. Under the Fengwu girl's pure and serious gaze, the 3 men were defeated. The most basic plan naturally changed from a beauty trap to a beauty trap. Have you decided who will go? Tingyu relaxed because she didn't have to do anything. She was in a good mood as she sat there and enjoyed the show. Why don't Captain go? I believe that with Captain's handsome face that can mesmerize all women, you will definitely succeed. Pei Qing looked at Ajur. His eyes revealed a few words. I believe in you, Captain. Who wants you to believe in me? Ajur felt his feet itch. He really wanted to beat someone up. I think Tingfeng is a good choice. I heard that Minori is already in her 20s. When she sees Tingfeng, she will immediately want to eat her up. Ajur set his sights on Tingfeng, who had a weak face. Chapter 101. I can't. How can I compare to the 2 of you? Besides, that Lady Minori is only 20 years old. She's not 20 years old. Isn't she the most suitable age for our Pei Qing? The 3 of them each pushed a pretty boy. No one wanted to be the pretty boy in the pretty boy trap. They were all pure young men. They couldn't let a woman they didn't know taint their innocence. The 3 of them pushed each other. They discussed until the sky turned dark, but they still couldn't figure out which boy to send to be the pretty boy in the pretty boy trap. After another day, the 5 of them started to inquire about Minori's whereabouts. Fortunately, Minori was actually quite a low-profile person. They found out that other than going to the library from time to read books, she rarely appeared in other places. She even rarely attended banquets. The library was naturally not a place where ordinary people could go. Reading books in the library cost 2 gold coins an hour. Other than rich people, how could ordinary people afford it? 2 gold coins an hour? That's too expensive. With so many of us waiting there every day, how much money would it cost? Why don't we just wait at the entrance of the library? It'll save money that way. Tingfeng thought about the increasing debt and really didn't want to let the debt pile up even higher. No, hanging around the entrance of the library every day would attract too much attention. Ajur directly shook his head and refused. I know a type of person who doesn't need to pay to enter the library, Pei Qing suddenly said. Who? Everyone asked. Disabled people, Pei Qing said seriously. Go away. You're the disabled one, Tingfeng said unhappily. Stupid, Pei Qing wants us to pretend to be disabled. Tingyu knocked on her useless brother's head. That's a good idea. Everyone unanimously agreed. Fengwu, how do we pretend? She tilted her head in confusion. Xiao Wu, as long as you don't talk, it shouldn't be a problem to pretend to be mute, Ajur said. Fengwu nodded, indicating that she understood. As for the others, it shouldn't be a problem for them to pretend to be crippled, deaf, or paralyzed. Ajur thought for a few seconds. In order to better deceive the librarian, the 5 of them specially got crutches, bandages, and wheelchairs. This was a complete set of equipment. After another day, a group of Heaven's Fault and Earth's Fault appeared at the entrance of the library. They were either deaf-mute or disabled, causing the librarian to take a few more glances at them. It had to be mentioned here that although the country had a rule that disabled people could come here to read books, it was still not enough. However, there was not a single person who actually came to read. Those who came here were all from rich families. Which disabled person would be so stupid as to come here and enjoy the supercilious looks of these rich people? The librarian was a middle-aged uncle. This uncle had been managing the books in the library for many years. This was the first time he had seen a disabled person visit this magnificent library. Although the uncle felt that the 5 disabled people did not know their place, the rules were there. He had no reason to ask them to leave. Therefore, this uncle librarian pretended not to see the 5 monsters. However, while the uncle librarian pretended not to see them, the others were obviously unhappy. They thought that the librarian would throw out these monsters that polluted the air, but they did not expect that he would just pretend not to see them. Some of the aristocratic youths did not even know that the librarian had such a rule to allow disabled people to read books. Because they did not know, the aristocratic youths were not satisfied. Why? Why did they let these monsters in? They were obviously commoners. Why should they sit in the same place as aristocrats and breathe the same air? They were not satisfied and went to the librarian to ask him to throw these guys out. In the end, they found out from the librarian that the librarian had such a rule. What if the librarian did not listen to them and was not willing to chase them out? It did not matter. They could chase them out themselves. Therefore, some of the youths began to take action. Where did this stench come from? You damn beggars, it's really stinky. Why aren't you getting the hell out of here? Because you guys are here, the style of this place has become lower. A young man dressed in luxurious aristocratic clothing was the first to walk over and make things difficult for them. That's right, get out, get out. This young master still has to participate in the academy's examination tomorrow. If this young master's reading is affected because of you, can you 5 monsters bear the responsibility? Another young man wearing the academy's uniform also came over and retorted. We won't go out. We are disabled people. If you dare to drive us out, believe it or not, we will immediately go to the entrance of the palace to report you. Disabled people can come to the library to read books. That is the order of the previous monarchs. Who do you think you are? You dare to question the monarch's order? Pei Qing represented the 5 people and fiercely criticized the 2 teenagers who came to find Jia. When the 2 youths were reprimanded by Pei Qing, the nature of the matter immediately rose from chasing them out to being disrespectful to the king. Daring to question the orders of the previous kings was the rhythm of having a death wish. Seeing that they could not gain any advantage, the 2 youths who came to find trouble could only leave dejectedly. The others who were originally watching could only give up on the idea of finding trouble with them when they saw that the demiurge-flawed and earth-lacking monsters were not easy to bully. Fengwu, Ajur, and the rest casually found some books in the library and sat there to read. No one came close to them within a 2-meter radius of them. These aristocratic youths all treated them as if they were some kind of virus and avoided them. Most of them did not even read the books here and directly borrowed them to slowly read at home. The 5 of them stayed in the library for a total of 10 days. During these 10 days, they basically stayed in the library except for sleeping. It was so boring and tedious that if it was not for the huge carrot of 200,000 gold coins dropping in front of them, they would have given up long ago. Feng Wu wasn't one of the people who couldn't take it anymore. Ever since Feng Wu came here, she had been quietly reading every day. She was so engrossed in her reading that she was completely unlike the others. She pretended to read, but in reality, she was just chatting. Every day, she would talk about why Naley wasn't here yet, and the gossip she heard on the streets. After another 5 days, Tingfeng, Tingyu, and the rest who were always active really could not take it anymore. If this went on, they would become bookworms sooner or later. Xiaowu, you're reading so seriously every day. Are you engrossed in reading? Tingyu asked listlessly. Yes, I'm engrossed in reading, Feng Wu answered. I really admire you. You can even read such boring books, Tingfeng said. They're not boring. The books are very interesting. Feng Wu really liked the library. This place reminded her of the old curator who treated her very well. Chapter 102. Very good? Tingfeng leaned closer to Feng Wu and glanced at the title of the book. The words Encyclopedia of Medicinal Herbs entered her eyes. How could this kind of book be good? Tingfeng's mouth twitched. She and Feng Wu did not live in the same world. Tingyu and her brother were sprawled on the table. They felt like they were about to be buried alive by the books. It was the same for Ajur and Pei Qing. It was good to read books occasionally, but they couldn't stand reading for 8 to 9 hours straight. They weren't bookworms. They couldn't stand such a life. The librarian was just as depressed as Ajur and the others. Ever since these 5 fellows took root here, the number of people coming to the library to read had decreased by half. Even the number of people who came to borrow books had decreased by half. The librarian couldn't help but want to use a broom to kick these 5 fellows out. They were too hateful. What was even more hateful was that if they were really physically disabled but mentally strong, it would be fine. But these guys, other than the very cute black-haired mute girl who sat there and read seriously every day, the rest of them were basically here to dawdle. Every day, if they weren't sleeping, they were chatting. Just looking at them made one's hands itch. Since we have nothing to do, why don't we discuss who should be the one to seduce Minori when she appears? Tingyu was bored to death. She did not mind watching the boys' expressions change. Tingyu, life is too boring. I need a little stimulation. Didn't we agree that Tingfeng will be the one to go? There's no need to discuss this anymore. Pei Qing pretended to be reading a romance novel. What do you mean by I'll go? You're the one who's going. Tingfeng could not take it anymore. When did they discuss this? Why were they talking nonsense? I don't care who goes. I'm not going, Ajur said nonchalantly. Why should we? The 2 of them roared at Ajur, unconvinced. Because I'm the team leader. Very good. This reason was strong enough. They were speechless. At this moment, there was a commotion at the entrance of the library. Not long after, a woman in a gorgeous dress appeared at the entrance. Damn! Who is this? Did he reincarnate into the wrong body? Tingfeng cried out in alarm, pointing at the door with his bandaged hand. I think she might be a man dressed as a woman. Ajur looked carefully at the woman who had just walked in and said seriously, No, maybe she's just a woman with a man's face. Pei Qing covered half of his face with a book and said. While the 3 of them were pointing at the person who just came in, there were 2 girls sitting not far from them. These 2 girls also saw the person who came in and were doing the same thing as Ajur and the others. It's Lady Minori. I heard that she's going to marry Sir John Germain. I thought she would be busy with the wedding and wouldn't come to read. Who is she? She's the Queen's cousin. She has such a high status. Why would she need to prepare for the wedding? She just needs to show up on the day of the wedding. Although the 2 girls spoke softly, Ajur and the others were all experts. The 5 of them could clearly hear the 2 girls talking. No way, that androgynous woman is the legendary beauty Minori. Tingyu was so shocked that she almost fell off her chair. A few men also almost peed in their pants. No way, I don't dare to seduce her. You can go ahead. Tingfeng was so scared that she opened her arms and hugged the table so tightly that she almost grew on it. Good, you little bastards. How dare you pretend to be disabled and come in here to read? Do you want to die? Someone, catch them. It's all your fault, you big idiot. I told you to pretend to be disabled, but you still hugged the table with both hands. Do you think we're blind? Tingyu was so angry that she threw the book in her hand at Tingfeng. That thick book was as hard as a brick when it hit a person. Ajur and Pei Qing were also angry. They had just seen the target, but their plan had failed because of an idiot. The two of them were so angry that they threw the book at Tingfeng and ran away immediately. Ajur grabbed Fengwu, Tingyu, and Pei Qing and chased after them. After Tingfeng dodged the book attack, she also stood up and ran away. The guards at the entrance of the library chased them around the library like dogs. Stop, you liars. Don't even think about running away. Stop, you bastards. Don't think that you can run away. Now, even the librarian had joined the group of people chasing after the five of them. With a librarian and 4 guards, the group of people chasing after them had become even more powerful. The 5 of them weren't idiots. After running around the library once, they all ran towards the direction of the main entrance. Who asked this library to only have one main entrance? There wasn't even a back door. The team led by the librarian was getting closer and closer. In order not to be caught, Ajur and the others could only desperately run forward. Not good that Junali was actually blocking the entrance. Ajur had always been a person who did not have tender feelings for women. He pushed Minori to the side. Minori fell in the direction of Pei Qing's escape route. Pei Qing had no choice but to reach out and catch Minori. Be careful, Mississippi. After politely saying that, he immediately wanted to run. Unexpectedly, Minori, who originally did not have any attack power, grabbed Pei Qing's hand. Come, bring this man back for this, miss. Minori's face, which was more handsome than a man's, had 2 suspicious traces of red. This was the rhythm of love at first sight. As the queen's cousin, Minori's bodyguards who could follow by her side were all ordinary experts. A few bodyguards acted together and caught the stunned Pei Qing. Pei Qing did not even have the chance to make a move before he was tied up like a dumpling. By the time Pei Qing was caught, Ajur and the others had already run out of the library. That's great. The honey trap worked. We don't even have to fight over the candidates anymore. Minali can choose her own. Tingfeng was hiding at the entrance of the library. He patted his little heart, which had almost fallen out of his chest from fright, and said in relief, as expected of Pei Qing, such a powerful woman like Minori is already infatuated with him. Ajur praised Pei Qing's efficiency. Don't we need to save him? Fengwu heard Pei Qing's cry for help and then looked at the indifferent faces of the others. She pondered the serious question of whether or not to save him. Chapter 103. There's no need to save him. It's necessary for the mission. I'm sure Pei Qing will understand. Let's go first and not disturb them. The only person who could save Pei Qing was decisively dragged away. 3 days later, a notice was posted in the city. Sir John Germain and Lady Minori's wedding was cancelled. This matter naturally attracted the attention of all the people in the city, as well as the adventurers who had accepted the mission to ruin the wedding. Which awesome person did this? I've already made preparations to snatch the bride on their wedding day. Isn't that right? I'm also prepared to cause chaos at their wedding. I brought so many brothers here, but the wedding was cancelled just like that. What's the meaning of this? This was the wailing of the adventurers who had accepted the mission and still had not completed it. Little Chung, look at this. I wonder who completed this mission that you didn't want to accept. They're really fast. Eve rushed into Zicheng's room with a notice in her hand. Someone completed it? Zicheng stopped combing his hair and looked back. Yeah, these people are really vicious. They broke up a pair of lovers just like that. What a sin. Eve was obviously very disdainful of the people who had completed this mission. Zicheng and Eve naturally also saw this mission with a generous reward. However, this mission required them to break up a pair of lovers who were about to get married. Zicheng was naturally unwilling to accept such a mission. Zicheng was unwilling to accept it, and Eve didn't persuade him either. Instead, She looked down on those scoundrels who ran over to break up lovers for money. I heard that Fengwu seemed to have accepted this mission. Do you guys think that the person who completed this mission this time was her? Rika had unknowingly walked into Zicheng's room. Ever since Rika embarrassed herself in the female dormitory area that day, she thoroughly hated Fengwu and Ajur. Probably because Ajur was too powerful, and after asking around, she found out that Ajur was a noble and a NATO. After discovering that she couldn't afford to offend Ajur, most of Rika's hatred was transferred to Fengwu. In Rika's heart, Tongwu was the main culprit. It can't be. Does she have the ability? I heard that many people have accepted this mission. What kind of people are they? They even accepted such a wicked mission to break up an engaged couple. Eve probably because she had been with Zicheng for a long time, and the way she did things was a little Zicheng. Those who would accept the same mission as Fengwu can't be good people. They're just scum. Rika sneered and casually sat down on the sofa. All right, let's not talk about it anymore. Let's go see Sir John Germain first. He must be very sad right now. After all, we've met him once. When Zicheng and the others came to the Soya Empire, they happened to meet a rich young master who wanted to hit on Zicheng. In the end, he was discovered by German and saved. Although the two hadn't met, they had reached the level of ordinary friends. Fengwu and the others didn't know that Rika had also come to this country. As soon as they received the news, they immediately went to the Adventurers Guild branch in the Soya Empire's capital. The Adventurers Guild had branches in every country in the world. Naturally, the Soya Empire had one as well. The missions they accepted in the central city could also be submitted here. Naturally, Ajur and the others ran to submit the mission as soon as possible. After checking the quest information, the 200,000 gold coins were in their hands. The four of them made a happy decision and divided the 200,000 gold coins. As for Pei Qing, they knew that Countess Minali was a good match. She would definitely love Pei Qing. Pei Qing, who was going to be the Countess's man in the future, could have as much money as he wanted. How could he be interested in such a small amount of money? Just as the four of them were about to take the teleportation portal back to the central city, an unexpected person suddenly appeared. Are you guys planning to leave your companions behind? Pei Qing's voice was so cold that it pierced their bones. No, we were planning to go back to the central city and wait for you. Don't worry, we didn't touch a single coin of your share. We kept it all for you. Tingfeng was crying in her heart. Why did they come back at this time? Lady Minori was too useless. She couldn't even keep an eye on one person. Yes, we kept it all for you. It's good that you're back. The two shameless fellows, Tingyu and Ajur, didn't fall behind either. One couldn't see the disappointment of losing 10,000 gold coins on their faces. If Pei Qing didn't know them very well, he would have been fooled by them. Pei Qing, you're back? Fengwu saw Pei Qing, who she hadn't seen for a few days, and the corners of her mouth slightly curled up. She seemed to be in a good mood. Among all the people in this room, Xiaowu is probably the only one who sincerely welcomes me back. Pei Qing's eyes clearly expressed this. You guys keep acting. I won't be fooled. Sit down, big brother Qing. Do you want to eat something? It must have been very tiring to escape all the way back. How about I go to the kitchen and order 2 dishes for you? Tingyu secretly had a wicked idea. As soon as she went out, she would go look for Minori and ask her to quickly capture Pei Qing. This way, the 10,000 gold would definitely be back in her pocket. I advise you to sit down. If you dare to report this, I'll break your dog legs, Pei Qing said ruthlessly with a cold gaze. Fuck, you can even discover this, brother. You're awesome. Let's leave here immediately. Minori is definitely looking for me right now. We must leave the Soya Empire as soon as possible. Pei Qing's fingers tapped on the table rhythmically. Okay, pack up and set off immediately. Ajur also didn't talk nonsense, although it was a pity to lose 10,000 gold. The few of them packed up their things and left the room. Pei Qing also made some disguises. The group of people walked towards the teleportation circle. However, when they arrived at the teleportation circle, they saw that it was heavily guarded. Everyone who entered the teleportation circle had to be strictly checked. This big brother, do you know what's going on? Why is there such a strict check when using the teleportation circle? Tingfeng randomly asked a passerby. Isn't it because of Lady Minori's pretty boy? I really don't know what that pretty boy is thinking. Lady Minnery, such a beauty, likes him, and even gave up such a good marriage for him. Why doesn't he properly stay by Lady Minnery's side and insists on running away from home? You say, is he still a man? Running away from home is a trick that only ignorant women use. My wife runs away from home once every year. That pretty boy has really gained face for us men. As a dignified man, of all the tricks he could use, he just had to run away from home like a woman. You see, he made the Countess so angry. Chapter 104. Translator. Ryuxinji Editor. H2DH2 Mr. These soldiers are here to capture that pretty boy. The lady even said that as long as that pretty boy is willing to return, she will not pursue the matter of him running away from home. What a good woman. That damned pretty boy doesn't know how to cherish her. The man whom Tingfeng had casually pulled aside was obviously a married man. He looked down on that legendary pretty boy. Oh right, the lady even put up a mission in the Adventurers Guild for this matter. The mission reward is as high as 300,000 gold coins, all for the sake of capturing that pretty boy. The mission description also clearly states that we are not allowed to harm that pretty boy in the slightest, and that we have to bring him back unharmed. If I meet that pretty boy, that 300,000 gold coins will be mine. I really hope that pretty boy appears soon so that I can earn a lot of money. He's already appeared, right in front of you. Everyone was silent. Do you know what that guy looks like? And you want to capture him? Asked Tingyu curiously. The big man rolled his eyes at Tingyu. Who doesn't know? Portraits of that pretty boy are plastered all over the city. After saying this, the man continued to stroll around the streets. It looked like he was bent on capturing that legendary pretty boy to make some money. Pei Qing rejoiced in his heart. Luckily, he had changed his disguise when he went out. For safety reasons, he had even temporarily dyed his hair black like Feng Wu's. Anyway, his eyes were also black, so he could pretend to be someone from the ancient Eastern countries. The current Pei Qing had a head of long black hair, a pair of black eyes, and a long robe with the characteristics of the ancient Eastern countries. He was a living example of a handsome man from the ancient Eastern countries. Thinking about it, unless that Lady Minnery personally came to the scene to identify him, it would be impossible to catch him based on the portraits. The five of them went to a restaurant and asked for a private room. After the waiter left with the menu, Ajur, Tingfeng, and Tingyu joined forces to attack. The scene of the three experts attacking together was simply too beautiful. Feng Wu had never cared about their business, so she just watched from the side. You want to capture me for a reward? Pei Qing was unexpectedly calm. He just sat there without moving his butt at all. It's good that you know. For the sake of the happiness of our entire team, you'll have to bear with it, okay? This okay was a meaningful sound, but I don't want to be wronged. You want to catch me to get the reward. Aren't you afraid that I'll give you up? Minnery likes me so much. If I say anything to her, you might become someone else's prey. Pei Qing wasn't someone who was easy to deal with. He had already thought of how to deal with his money-grubber companions. You're ruthless. Ajur and the other two decisively let go. Just as he said, if Pei Qing said anything, with that person's financial resources, it was very likely that their entire team would die here. In the unfriendly atmosphere, everyone ate their fill. Because Minnery's guards were guarding the teleportation formation, it was basically impossible to leave by teleportation formation. The five of them discussed for a while and decided to go to a dangerous place to gain experience first. They would make plans after everything calmed down. The battlefield of gods and demons, as the name implied, referred to the place where the gods and demons fought in ancient times. According to legend, in ancient times, the human race was weak. The gods and demons often fought, and the battlefield was the human world. Every time the two worlds fought, the human world would suffer a catastrophe. The places where the two worlds fought were all in the human world, but it wasn't fixed at any place in the human world. There were several other battlefields of gods and demons like this. There were corpses of ancient gods and demons, as well as god tools and demon tools that they had used. It was even said that divine beast eggs could be found there. There were so many benefits in the two-realm battlefield, but the danger was naturally also extraordinarily high. There were many gods and demons formed by resentment there. Although those resentment spirits weren't as strong as they were when they were alive, they were definitely not weak. Every year, who knew how many experts died in the hands of those resentment spirits? Such a dangerous place where danger and opportunity coexisted was actually a very good place to gain experience. Of course, with Fengwu and the others' current strength, they could only walk around the periphery of the two-realm battlefield. Heavens, how much longer until we reach the two-realm battlefield? We've already walked for so many days. When will we get there? Tingyu couldn't stand it anymore and sat down on a large rock, complaining non-stop. Ever since they left the restaurant that day, they had been walking in the direction of the two-realm battlefield. They had walked for a whole 7 days. The two-realm battlefield wasn't very far from the capital of the Soya Empire. Although that place was very dangerous, there were even more opportunities. Many members of the royal family liked to go there to gain experience. Soon, right? Didn't you say it wasn't far? Tingfeng was so tired that she leaned against a tree. Let me take a look at the map first. Pei Qing took out a map. After flipping through it, he finally determined where they were. We're still 2 days away from the two-realm battlefield. However, there should be a town up ahead. We can go there and rest for a while. All right, then let's hold on for a while longer. When we reach the town up ahead, we'll have a good meal. After saying that, Ajur pulled Fengwu's small hand, then signaled for everyone to follow with his eyes. Tingfeng and the other two could only follow. After walking for 3 hours, although they still hadn't seen the shadow of the town, they saw an inn that was opened by the roadside. That's great. We have a place to stay. Leader, let's go in quickly. They were extremely excited. Seeing this small inn was like seeing their savior. The 5 of them walked into the inn, and a waiter immediately greeted them. Would you like to eat or stay? The waiter was all smiles. Those who would stay in their inn were all going to the two-realm battlefield, or returning from the battlefield. Those who could go there weren't people to be trifled with. The waiter naturally had to be careful. We'll eat and stay together. Get 2 double rooms and 1 single room. Prepare some of your inn's specialties and bring them up. Be quick. We're starving. Tingfeng rubbed her stomach. After eating buns all the way, she felt that she was about to turn into a bun. She really didn't understand how Xiao Wu could still eat so happily. All right, I'll prepare it for you right away. The waiter brought them to their seats and went to prepare the food. He also went to book a room while he was at it. I can finally eat a decent meal, Tingyu said dispiritedly as she sprawled out on the table. Isn't this little junior sister and little junior brother? I really didn't expect to see you guys here. Fengwu and the others turned around when they heard this, and only then did they realize that they had met some familiar faces again. Weren't these people the members of the Ming Shi team? Yo, there were even a few new people. Fengwu and Ajur naturally knew these people. It was Ziqing and the other two. Chapter 105. Speaking of which, there was a reason why these two teams would meet. Ziqing was worried that German would take things too hard, so he went to comfort him. He didn't expect to bump into German's friends, the members of Ming Shi team. Both sides were from the same school, and Ziqing always gave people a good first impression. He was very likable. After knowing that Ming Shi and the others were going to the two-realm battlefield to train, Ziqing and the other two also expressed that they wanted to go as well. Thus, the original team of 5 became 8 people. However, they didn't expect that they would actually meet Fengwu's team members on the way. Ming Shi and the others were really surprised. Ajur and the others were also surprised. Who would have thought that the Soya Empire was so big? How could they keep bumping into each other? Fengwu looked at Ming Shi with bright eyes. Clearly, she was very happy to meet Ming Shi here. Ming Shi coughed a little uncomfortably and turned his face away slightly. Although it wasn't the first time he was stared at by a girl, the way she looked at Fengwu was very different. Her bright eyes really made people feel pressured. Oh, it's actually Captain and Xiao Wu's seniors. Seniors, are you also going to the two-realm battlefield to train? What a coincidence. Pei Qing greeted them as if they were familiar with each other. Yeah, we're planning to go to the two-realm battlefield to train. You guys too, right? What a coincidence, Argyros said with a smile. Come and sit with us. If we put 2 tables together, we should be able to sit all of us. Elena walked in front of Fengwu enthusiastically and pulled Fengwu towards their table. Tingfeng and the others were instructed by Elena to move tables. Tingfeng and Pei Qing resigned themselves to their fate and moved a table to Ming Shi's table. The few of them sat down one by one. Elena occupied a seat beside Feng Wu and started to grope Feng Wu. Sometimes she touched her head, sometimes she pinched her face. She was just like a female hooligan. I said, "Senior Elena, don't bully Xiao Wu anymore. It's embarrassing." Ajur wondered if this guy really liked women. He remembered that when they first met, he even confessed his love to Feng Wu. Come again. Thinking about it, that woman was known as a tigress in the academy. He had never heard of her accepting any men. Could it be that she didn't accept those men because Elena actually liked women? The more he thought about it, the more it seemed to be the case. The more he thought about it, the darker his face became. I say, you little fellows, you're only in your first year, yet you want to go to the two-realm battlefield to train. Aren't you a little too daring? Ruglas downed a large mouthful of wine and looked at the youths with disapproval in his eyes. Seniors, don't worry. We only plan to take advantage of the outermost perimeter of the two-realm battlefield. We won't go too deep. Tingyu said with an extremely cute smile. As expected of the upperclassmen of the Notre Dame du Starlight, all of them looked like experts. Tingyu held her small face, and her eyes sparkled. That won't do. Do you know how dangerous it is? Even in the outermost perimeter, it's still very dangerous. If you're not careful, you can lose your life there. Rugla still didn't quite agree. The new students this year seemed to be especially unreliable. They were only in their first year, yet all of them wanted to explore the two-realm battlefield. That Zicheng was the same. He was clearly only a first year, yet he wanted to go to the two-realm battlefield to train with them. If it weren't for the fact that they were afraid that these three girls would secretly chase after them after they left, they wouldn't have brought these three burdens along. Even if Ruglas was very dissatisfied with these little fellows who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, he couldn't just leave them behind. After all, they were his junior brothers and sisters. Forget it. You'll be like Zicheng and the others and come with us to train. However, you have to listen to our commands, understand? Elena pinched Feng Wu's little cheeks and said very domineeringly. Because of the swaying of her body, her large breasts also dazzled everyone's eyes. It was a pity that there were so many people present, yet no one knew how to appreciate this domineering sister's devilish figure. Is it really possible? Tingyu was excited. Xiao Wu, that's great. This way, you can train with your senior Ming Shi. Tingyu turned her head and said excitedly to Feng Wu across Elena. And Feng Wu nodded happily. A trace of happiness could actually be seen on her originally expressionless face. Wait a minute, Senior Elena. Are we really going to bring them along? We don't know how strong these people are. What if they hold us back? Eve had always disliked Feng Wu. She thought that she pretended to be innocent and pure. In addition, the conflict between the two during the freshman entrance exam made Eve view Feng Wu as her mortal enemy. In short, Feng Wu was now at the top of Eve's list of girls that she disliked the most. Moreover, it was the kind that would not change for 10,000 years. Do you think you have the right to say that? Skycliffe, who was originally silent, suddenly opened his mouth and almost choked Eve to death. Ruglas and Arguros tried their best to hold back their laughter. Indeed, that junior Zicheng was gentle and beautiful. Moreover, she would occasionally help those pitiful people along the way. However, as Zicheng's friend, Eve was definitely an unlikable girl. She clearly didn't have any abilities, but she liked to criticize others. On the other hand, Rika always pretended to be aloof. Even when she helped people with Zicheng, she still acted high and mighty. It was really hard to understand how these three people met and became friends. Zicheng really admired her mental fortitude to be friends with these two people. I'm sorry, Senior Skycliffe. Eve doesn't have any ill intentions. Please don't take it to heart. Zicheng pulled Eve, who still wanted to say something. After all, Zicheng was someone who had lived an extra life. She wasn't like Eve, who didn't know how to read people's faces. Here, the three of them were brought along by their seniors out of kindness. Before they came, she had told her seniors that she would separate from them when they reached the two-realm battlefield and that they would move on their own. She also knew that the seniors wouldn't let the three of them move on their own. When the time came, the seniors would definitely bring them along. In fact, Zicheng's purpose in coming to the two-realm battlefield this time was to find something. A month ago, she found a strange metal piece on the street. When her blood dripped onto the metal piece, a map actually appeared. That map just so happened to be the map of the two-realm battlefield. On that map, the location of the tomb of a god who had fallen in ancient times was marked. Originally, Zicheng didn't plan to go there now. However, she happened to meet some seniors in the upper grades. She thought that perhaps she could try to retrieve the treasures in the tomb with the accompaniment of these seniors. Of course, Zicheng didn't tell anyone else about the secret of the tomb. Even Eve and Rika didn't know about the secret of the tomb. Chapter 106. I don't care if she's malicious or not. I just hope that she knows her place in the future. Skycliff was not Ming Shi, who was gentle and polite to everyone. He was also not Ruglas or Arguros. Although the two of them were not as gentle as Ming Shi, they were always more patient and gentlemanly towards girls. Skycliff was not like that. No matter who he was to, he was always ruthless and cold. He often said something that could anger people half to death. Okay, the dishes are on the table. Let's eat. Just then, the waiter began to serve the dishes. Arguros hurriedly urged everyone to eat. Although he did not like the girl named Eve, she was still a girl. He still had to give her some face. Everyone silently picked up their utensils and began to eat, but the atmosphere suddenly became a little stiff. It was not as lively as it was at the beginning. Arguros could not stand the silent atmosphere. He wanted to say a few words to liven up the mood. Suddenly, a sudden clap of thunder sounded in the sky. A second after the clap of thunder, the rain poured down from the sky. The originally bright sky became pitch black. It was now 3:00 in the afternoon. It was still sunny, but it suddenly became as dark as the evening. Why is it raining so suddenly? It looked fine just now. Elena suddenly felt a little annoyed. This feeling appeared out of nowhere. Normally, experts like Elena and the others would not have any inexplicable mood changes. If they really encountered such a change, it meant that something was about to happen. Moreover, it was something related to them. Ming Shi's brows furrowed without leaving a trace. A dull feeling suddenly appeared in his heart. This was not a good omen. The other members of Ming Shi team also felt something was wrong. They had studied at Notre Dame du Starlight for several years. Naturally, their strength was not something that Fengwu and the other freshmen could handle. "Boss, do you have a room? Help me get a room." A young girl in blue holding a large umbrella suddenly rushed in from outside the door of the small hotel. Her clothes were not stained with water, but she looked a little embarrassed. Irene knew that Zicheng would encounter her first fated opportunity here, so she naturally made up her mind to come and snatch the female lead's fated opportunity. Thus, she purposely timed her arrival at the two-realm battlefield to look for the female lead. Her plan was to sneak into the female lead's team and search for treasures together with her. However, she did not expect to encounter such a heavy downpour when she was only a dozen steps away from the inn. Fortunately, she reacted quickly and took out a special large umbrella from her spatial ring to cover her head. Otherwise, she would definitely have become a drowned rat by now. All right, I'll get you a room right away." The owner behind the counter was more than happy to oblige. He immediately got Aaron a room. Zicheng? Fengwu? Why are you guys here?" Irene seemed to be very surprised to see them here and naturally walked over. No one would suspect that this girl had already known the plot and ran here to wait for someone. Actually, although Irene had read the original novel, she did not have a clear explanation of when Zicheng would appear in the two-realm battlefield. Thus, Irene had no choice but to come over a period of time in advance to wait for someone. What on earth was the situation now? She remembered that Zicheng should still be waiting to attend German's wedding at this time. Why did he appear a few days in advance? What on earth had gone wrong? Moreover, in the novel, although the wedding could not proceed with German's wedding, the reason was definitely not that the bride had fallen in love with some pretty boy. Instead, it was because German had been captured by someone, causing the wedding to fail. The bride felt that German was not manly and had been captured so easily, thus causing the wedding to be cancelled. No one would have thought that all of this was just a way for the groom, German, to avoid getting married. However, The strange thing was that German had indeed issued a mission at the Adventurers Guild, just like what was written in the novel. What was different from the novel was that the one who was in trouble was not German. Instead, it was the bride who was seduced by a pretty boy. Could it be that her butterfly fan was too strong, causing this wedding farce to change beyond recognition? Originally, German had been kidnapped these 2 days, and the ones who had kidnapped German were Senior Ming Shi and the others. In order to help their friend, Senior Ming Shi and the others had helped German fake it. Of course, Ziqing had also helped in this matter. After the wedding was cancelled, Ziqing would naturally follow Senior Ming Shi's team to the two-realm battlefield. The development of the story should have been like this. Why did the script suddenly change? Not only did the details of the cancelled wedding change, but even the people who appeared here changed. What was going on with Feng Wu and the others? These people were clearly not mentioned in the novel. No matter how turbulent Irene's heart was, she still maintained a pleasantly surprised smile on her face. Irene? I really didn't expect to meet you here. Oh right, why are you here? Ziqing was also a little surprised to see Irene. I'm here for a mission, the mission to ruin the wedding. Who knows which great god is so powerful? Our team didn't even make a move, and it was already completed by someone else. Originally, I wanted to go back directly, but then I thought that since I've come to the Soya Empire, I should at least take a look at the magic crystal mine. That's why I appeared here. What about you guys? Don't tell me you're also thinking of going to the magic crystal mine like me? Of course, Irene couldn't say that she also wanted to go to the two-realm battlefield. She was a new student, and it was very strange for her to go to the two-realm battlefield alone. Fortunately, she had already thought of a reason. On the same path as the two-realm battlefield, there just happened to be a large-scale magic crystal mine. That mine had always been in the hands of the Soya Empire's royal family. The more precious magic crystals in the mine had naturally been mined out, and the remaining ones were taken out to attract travelers and adventurers from various countries. Each person only needed to pay 10 gold coins to mine as much as they wanted in the magic crystal mine. Whatever they dug out would be theirs. That mine was very famous. Some people were extremely lucky and had indeed dug out rare magic crystals. However, there were even more people who didn't dig out anything, or only dug out some magic crystals that weren't too precious. So you want to go to the magic crystal mine. But what about your teammates? Are they behind you? Ziqing smiled in a friendly manner, but there was a bit of estrangement in his smile. This Irene was a very strange person. Ziqing had also tried hard to increase her friendliness, but found that no matter what she did, Irene's friendliness towards her never passed. Ziqing had never encountered such a situation before. Her intuition told her that there was something wrong with Irene. Chapter 107. Those who were not affected by her favorability system must have secrets that she did not know. Although Ziqing did not want to interact with such people, he did not want to offend them either. As long as she did not take the initiative to provoke him, Ziqing did not mind maintaining a friendly relationship with her on the surface. They have already left. Those guys couldn't wait to return to the central city as soon as they heard that the mission was completed. It was originally a temporary team for the mission. I can't force them to mine with me. After saying that, she winked playfully. Speaking of the mission, a juror and the others couldn't help but feel guilty. Let alone the mission. If these guys knew that their team was the one that completed the mission, and that there was someone in their team with a high bounty on their head, who knows what would happen? It was unknown if a juror and the others' prayers were effective, but Irene finally changed the topic. Are these the seniors in the school? Although she already knew their identities, Irene still had to pretend that it was the first time she had met them. Little Junior, you know us? Arguros touched his chin and asked with interest. Interesting. What day was it today? I just met Feng Wu and a juror, these two juniors, and now there was another junior. These seniors are very famous in the school. Among us freshmen, there are many who have a crush on the seniors. Irene said playfully. Are we that popular? Arguros was excited. He even wiped his hair to make himself look more handsome. That's impossible. I believe that those girls have a crush on Ming Shi. Elena said bluntly. Hey, besides Ming Shi, we are also handsome guys that everyone loves. How can there not be girls who are interested in us? Arguros said unhappily. Irene had a cheerful personality. When she wanted to please someone, it was not difficult for her to become familiar with the Ming-Shi team. While Aaron was chatting with Ming-Shi and the others, Ting Wind, Ting Rain, and Pei Che weren't idling around either. As they ate, they didn't forget to exchange a few words. Only Feng Wu was acting a little strange. She was usually more enthusiastic than anyone when it came to food, but now she was looking at the door or the window from time to time. A juror noticed her abnormal behavior. Even Ming-Shi, who occasionally glanced at the Feng Wu girl, noticed her abnormality. Xiao Wu, what are you looking at? Is there something at the door? Elena was sitting beside Feng Wu. Feng Wu's reaction was so obvious that it was difficult for Elena to pretend that she did not see it. It's so red outside. Feng Wu bit her lips and said with a frown. So red? Pei Qing repeated in a strange manner. Xiao Wu, did you say it wrong? It's so black. Tingyu helped Feng Wu correct her mistake in a small voice. It's not so black, it's so red, Feng Wu said with certainty. No one knew that the world in Feng Wu's eyes had completely changed. The heavy rain outside had turned into a bloody rain. Even the sky was blood red. Red? Everyone felt a burst of strange feeling. Everyone looked at the door. No, it was as black as night. How could it be red? What kind of eyes were they looking at? Was Feng Wu colorblind? At this moment, a group of guards led a young girl wearing a veil hat to run over in a somewhat sorry state. The young girl's dress was already wet from the rain, and the back of her dress was gradually covered with mud. Fortunately, there was a maid at the side who had been holding an umbrella for her, so her dress wasn't completely wet. However, the maids beside the young girl were all drenched. In an instant, with the arrival of the girl, the entire inn was filled with hundreds of guards. Princess Nana is here. Why aren't you all moving out of the way? A maid in red, who was drenched by the rain, still looked at the only table of customers in the inn, which was Feng Wu and the others, and said loudly, Move out of the way? Where are you going? It's raining so heavily outside. You're really imaginative. Arguros looked disdainfully at the maid who was pretending to be powerful. How dare you? The princess wants to temporarily take shelter from the rain here. If you all know what's good for you, why aren't you leaving? The maid in red shouted sternly. In terms of first come first serve, we came first. Why should we leave? What bullshit, princess? Ruglas didn't put her in his eyes at all. You all. The maid wanted to say something, but was stopped by a man in armor who was dressed as a commander. That's enough. It's raining so heavily outside. You, a little maid, actually want to chase the commoners out? Even if the king was here, he would not bully the commoners like this. The commander shouted at the red-clothed maid. All right, stop talking. Quickly prepare a room for this princess. This princess is about to die from exhaustion. The Princess Nana wearing the veil hat said impatiently, Boss, immediately prepare a good room for the princess. The commander said to the boss, Yes, yes, yes. This humble one will do it right away. The boss with 2 tufts of beard didn't dare delay the princess. He immediately personally led the princess and her maid to the best room in the inn to rest. That commander isn't bad. Ting Yu said, He isn't bad. Unfortunately, that princess doesn't look like a good person. Rika, who hadn't said anything until now, opened her mouth. For a proud girl like Rika, she never liked girls who had a higher or lower status than her. That Princess Nana was one of the 2 types of girls that Rika hated the most. Ming-Shi's table was quietly talking. The soldiers who came in to take shelter from the rain asked the waiter to prepare some food and drinks. They then casually wiped their clothes with a towel and tidied themselves up. The commander nodded at Ming-Shi and then didn't look at them. He minded his own business and sat at a table some distance away from them to eat. As for the princess food, it was naturally brought upstairs to eat. How could a princess come downstairs to eat with so many men? A juror. There's something wrong with that princess, Feng Wu suddenly said. There's something wrong with the princess? She's a fake princess? Elena asked curiously. Her entire body is filled with blood. She's surrounded by vengeful spirits. More than 100 vengeful spirits. All of them female vengeful spirits. Many people will die. Someone will definitely die. Feng Wu muttered to herself. Feng Wu's eyes could see things that others couldn't. Ever since Princess Nana came in, she had noticed something strange about Princess Nana. She was surrounded by countless vengeful spirits. All of them wanted to kill the princess. They were howling in pain and attacking Princess Nai crazily. However, it was a pity that Princess Nai seemed to have something protecting her body. They couldn't hurt her at all. On the other hand, the vengeful spirits that were attacking Princess Nai were severely injured by the protective item on her body. A few vengeful spirits had their souls dissipated just like that. Chapter 108. Feng Wu could clearly see these things, but the others couldn't see them. After all, none of them were necromancers. Blood aura? Why can't we see it? Is there something wrong with your eyes? Rika said disdainfully. That's right. You can see things that none of us can see, and you call yourself a wraith? Do you think you're a necromancer? Eve laughed mockingly. Ming Shi and the others didn't think that these things didn't exist just because they couldn't see them. Ming Shi's team was no ordinary person, and they wouldn't deny others because of something they didn't know. It was just that Feng Wu's words were too hard to believe. Just as Eve had said, Feng Wu wasn't a necromancer. In fact, not only was Feng Wu not a necromancer, she wasn't even a mage of any other major. She didn't have any talent for magic. If she did, she wouldn't have gone to the psychic department. Someone with no talent for magic was telling them that she could see the undead. Even if Ming Shi and the others didn't think that Feng Wu would lie, they still held a skeptical attitude in their hearts. After all, this was too hard to believe, wasn't it? You guys better listen to Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu's eyes are different from yours. She can see things that ordinary people can't. If you don't believe me, I have something here that you might be able to use. Ajur took out a small bottle of transparent white potion from his space ring as he spoke. This was the potion that the old mage had given them last time. This kind of potion that could see the undead was something that only beginner necromancer apprentices would use. Necromancers had their own system, and they wouldn't sell this kind of potion outside. Only a few people who had a good relationship with necromancers might be gifted a bit. Isn't this the occult potion? I didn't expect you to carry such a thing with you. Elena exclaimed in a low voice. This occult potion was named after it was sprayed on a person's eyes. It was said that the person who created this occult potion was a god-ranked necromancer, the world's first necromancer. When that mage became a god, he created this potion in order to ensure that the necromancer's legacy would not be cut off. The purpose of this potion was to help necromancer apprentices who had yet to open their eyes to see the existence of the undead, and to help those apprentices get used to interacting with spirits faster. Only necromancers knew the formula of this potion. Although these necromancers weren't very harmonious, they still had a common sense of protecting the formula. It didn't matter if the person was a white magician or a dark necromancer. At the very least, they wouldn't divulge the secret of the occult potion to outsiders. Although the potion was small, those who had the means could still get some and sell it in the shop or auction house. However, the price would be very high, and not many people would buy it. After all, who would want to see what the undead looked like? Wouldn't that be looking for trouble? Because there weren't many people who needed the occult potion, even if it rarely appeared on the market, it wasn't that hard to buy. Now that they saw Ajur actually had the occult potion in his hands, although this made Elena and the others surprised, it didn't shock them. How about it? Do you dare to use it? Ajur arrogantly shook the potion bottle in his hand, with a face full of arrogance. Let's use it. Who's afraid of you? Argyros stretched out his hand and snatched the occult potion, then sprayed it into his eyes twice. Because of the foreign object entering his eyes, Argyros blinked uncomfortably. At this moment, almost everyone's attention was focused on him. How is it, Senior? Did you see anything? Irene was the first to ask. Eve and Rika had expressions of disbelief. Magicians were the noblest profession in the entire continent. If Feng Wu could see the undead, wouldn't it prove that she had the talent to become a necromancer? Necromancers were very strong in battle, and they also had long lifespans. Legend had it that they had their own ways to extend their lifespans. It was really difficult to convince them that Feng Wu, who had a little bit of magic talent, had the potential to become a necromancer. Anyway, they wouldn't believe it even if you beat them to death. How is it? Elena and Ruglas were also very curious. Argyros blinked. When he opened his eyes again, he found that the world had changed. The world that was originally as dark as night had turned into a blood-red color. The blood-red color surrounded the entire small inn. The inn was filled with red blood mist, and the screams of the undead could be heard coming from the second floor. The strange thing was that there were so many people in the hall eating and drinking in this large blood mist, and they weren't affected at all. This scene was strange no matter how one looked at it, and it sent chills down one's spine. The most unacceptable thing was that outside the inn, there was a basin of rain pouring down. The rain that was originally transparent in his eyes had turned into a blood-red color. The pungent smell of blood outside the door made him want to vomit. After only a few seconds, even Arkros, who thought he had seen a lot, turned pale. Everyone knew what was going on when they saw his expression. Ruglas called out a few times, but didn't see any response. He had no choice but to grab the bottle from Arguros and sprayed it into his own eyes. The second guy with a pale face appeared. Ming-Shi and Skycliff looked at each other. Even an idiot could see that something was wrong. The two sprayed the occult potion into their own eyes one after the other. After realizing their situation, even the calm Skycliff's face stiffened a little. Ming-Shi's face didn't change, but the seriousness in his eyes was obvious. No way. Is there really something? I don't believe it. I want to spray it too. Eve was waiting for Fengwu to make a fool of herself, but she didn't expect reality to give her a slap in the face. She was a girl who wouldn't give up until all hope was gone. If she didn't see it with her own eyes, she wouldn't believe that Fengwu could really see the undead even if she was beaten to death. As she spoke, she pulled out a chair and walked to Skycliff's side. She wanted to take the occult potion and spray it, but Skycliff flipped his hand, and the potion didn't fall into Eve's hands. Senior Skycliff. Eve was unconvinced. She even began to suspect that these seniors didn't want Fengwu to make a fool of herself, so they pretended to be frightened to get away with it. Thinking of this, Eve was even more dissatisfied. Why? Why did everyone have to stand on Fengwu's side? This reminded Eve of the last stage of the entrance exam, when she was ostracized because of Fengwu. Girls, don't look. I don't want to hear your screams. Skycliff glanced coldly at Eve. The reason he didn't give Eve the occult potion wasn't because he was protective of the fairer sex, but because he didn't want to hear their high-pitched screams. Chapter 109. Ruglas and Arguros expressed their understanding. Even the men were so scared that their hearts were pounding. If the girls saw this scene, they would scream and faint. These girls were still freshmen and had never seen such a cruel scene. They did not think that the girls could withstand it as well as them. Is it really that scary? Why don't you try it, Tingfeng? Tell me what you see after you try it. Pei Qing originally wanted to try it himself, but after seeing the change in the faces of the people, he changed his mind. He did not want to see anything disgusting. Why should I look? Why don't you look? Tingfeng shouted unhappily. He was not curious at all, so there was no need for him to look. Captain, why don't you take a look? Tingyu carefully probed. Ajur calmly glanced at these people, then let Skycliff pass the elixir back to him. After taking the elixir, Ajur nonchalantly sprayed it into his eyes twice. How is it? What do you see? Tingyu and the other two asked curiously. It's all red, Ajur said with a strange expression. Even Ajur, who was prepared, was shocked by the scene. It was just as Fengwu said. Of course, he never doubted Fengwu. Fengwu Jr., this senior admires you. You can still calmly eat without vomiting after seeing such a scene. You really are an expert. Arguros looked at Fengwu with admiration. Ruglas nodded furiously at the side. Even Ming-Shi and Skycliff showed their approval in their eyes. Why can't I eat it? Fengwu girl expressed that the food tasted good and the barbecue was well done. Don't you think it stinks? Don't you feel like vomiting after eating in this environment? Ruglas asked. I don't think so. Fengwu shook her head seriously, indicating that the environment did not affect her. How could I not feel that way? This place is clearly. Arguros could not continue. Well, he regretted it. If he had known that he would see such a bloody scene, he would not have been the first to seek death. If you eat seriously when you eat, you won't feel any other taste. Fengwu thought for a moment and knitted her delicate brows. Eat seriously when you're eating? What kind of explanation was this? Everyone was silent. Why did they feel that this explanation was very profound? Is it really that disgusting? Let me try, Junior. Elena's curiosity was piqued. Elena had always been a tomboy. She loved to challenge things that even men were afraid of. After seeing the calming she and the indifferent Tianya change their expressions, Elena couldn't help but want to experience what it was like to frighten these two experts to the point that their expressions changed. Here you go. The juror straightforwardly handed the bottle of elixir to Elena. After Elena received the bottle, she impatiently sprayed the elixir into her eyes. After blinking a few times to adapt to the elixir in her eyes, Elena boldly looked outside the inn. As expected, it was a sea of blood. The smell of blood was enough to make people vomit out the food they ate 2 days ago. It's really interesting. The tomboy Elena frowned and returned to normal. Senior Elena, did you see it too? Eve still didn't dare to believe it. After being rejected by Skycliff, although she didn't dare to pester that ice cube face of Skycliff, she was much bolder when facing Elena, who was also a girl. Elena's reputation had always been good among the girls. Although in the eyes of the boys, she was a tomboy, in the eyes of the girls, she was a senior who was willing to help others. When the girls met with problems that they couldn't solve, they would look for Elena. If she was able to solve it, she wouldn't be stingy. Thus, Elena's popularity had always been very high among the girls. That's right. This senior advises you to listen to Skycliff's words. Trust this senior. When you see what we see now, you might immediately scream and faint. You might not even want to eat anything for a few days. Although Elena didn't have a good impression of Eve, no matter what, she was still a girl. She still had to give her face. All right, Eve, just listen to your seniors. They're doing this for our sake. Be good. Sit down and eat. Zicheng gently comforted Eve. He didn't want Eve to go against the seniors at this time. This wouldn't be beneficial for the girls. If she wanted to enter the tomb of the gods, she still needed the help of these seniors. At this time, they definitely couldn't strangle their relationship. Irene just sat at the side and smiled. Seeing Zicheng comforting Eve, she sneered in her heart. You want to go to the tomb of the gods to get the divine weapon? You have to get my permission first. If you want to use the seniors to pave the way for you, then make good use of them. These people were all powerful experts. It was only with them that they could successfully enter the two-realm battlefield and then enter the tomb of the gods. Princess Nana's people didn't know about the changes in the surroundings of the small hotel. After eating, the commander assigned people to guard the surroundings of the small hotel. He didn't let anyone suspicious that would harm the princess enter this small hotel. At this time, in a room on the second floor, Princess Nana had already changed into a light green dress. She wore a princess crown on her head. She looked exceptionally gorgeous. Princess Nana was originally a famous beauty in the Soya Empire. Her skin was like cream, her eyes were limpid, her brows were like distant mountains, and her lips were like red maple leaves. She also had a head of long hair that reached her hips. If she was born in the modern world, her hair could totally be used in a shampoo advertisement. Princess, do you want to eat something first? At this time, a red-clothed maid walked into the room with a plate of food. The boss had specially asked the kitchen to prepare this. Of course, the ingredients used were all brought by Princess Nana's people. The Princess Nana would never touch the food that ordinary people ate. Just leave it there. You and Mayor should go and change your clothes too. It's not good for your health to wear such revealing clothes. Princess Nainai sat in front of the dressing mirror and casually brushed her hair with her hand. The red-clothed maid Xiaona and Meir thanked Princess Nana emotionally. Then, they quickly went to the room next door to change their clothes. Although it was summer, no normal person would like to wear revealing clothes. Xiaona and Meir naturally didn't like it either. However, without the princess's permission, they couldn't go down to change their clothes. Fortunately, the princess didn't forget about them. The two of them bowed to the princess and then left the room where the princess was temporarily staying. They went to another room to change their clothes. Meir and Xiaona were both capable maids by the princess's side. They were naturally different from ordinary maids. Before the two of them went to change their clothes, a little maid had already brought in new clean clothes. Chapter 110. The two of them each took a set of clothes, took off their wet clothes, and changed into the clean clothes that had just been delivered. Xiao Na, don't you think there's something wrong with the princess? Mayer thought about it again and again, then took a deep breath and asked. Xiao Na's hand that was tidying up the clothes paused for a moment, then said as if nothing had happened, "The princess is the princess. As maids, we only need to take good care of the princess. Other things are not for us to care about." But if... Mayer bit her lip and said with some reluctance, "There's no if. We've already boarded the princess ship. There's no turning back. Don't think too much and do your job well." Xiaona pulled her skirt and stepped out of the room where they changed their clothes. Mayer still wanted to say something, but in the end, all the unspoken words turned into a sigh and then followed her out of the room. Xiaona was right. No matter what they found, they could not spread it out. If it was spread out, they would die. At this time downstairs, Feng Wu and the others had already eaten their fill. Of course, those who were full were probably those who were mentally strong enough, or those who did not see anything at all. Most of the people who saw those scenes said that they could no longer eat anything, and that they wanted to vomit as soon as they ate. "Xiao Wu, what do we do now?" Tingyu's little heart was pounding in fear. Ever since she knew that this place was actually surrounded by a large pool of blood, Tingyu's heartbeat had not calmed down. "We don't have a necromancer among us. This kind of situation should be handled by a necromancer." Argyros' face was a little pale, and he looked a little dispirited. "It's too late. Necromancers are rare. Even if the Soya Empire has a necromancer, it's impossible for him to come here in such a short time." Mingxi's face looked calm, but deep worry could be seen in his eyes. Mingxi was a rare handsome man in the world. Now that he looked so worried, it made people feel sorry for him. They wished they could bring all the good things in front of him, just to ask him to show off his beauty. "Xiao Wu, can you summon Liddy over? I remember that the necromancer gave Liddy some training methods before he left. Maybe she knows what's going on." Ajur thought for a few seconds, and suddenly thought of the little undead who had been missing since they brought her back. "Okay, I'll give it a try." Feng Wu nodded and tried to summon Liddy in her mind. Liddy was Feng Wu's contract spirit, and she had no strength. When Feng Wu needed her, she could summon her no matter where she was. Because both sides had signed an equal contract, if Feng Wu wanted to successfully summon her contract spirit, she had to get the contract spirit's consent. It was not as binding as a master-servant contract. When she wanted to summon her contract spirit, regardless of whether the other party was willing or not, she could forcibly summon her contract spirit to her side. "Who is Liddy?" Elena asked on behalf of everyone. "That's Xiao Wu's contract spirit. Even if she can't help us, she should be able to explain the current situation. That way, we'll know what to do." Ajur said faintly. Everyone made an "oh" sound. They hadn't thought that Feng Wu would actually have a contract spirit. Wasn't it said that only necromancers could contract spirits to fight for them? After a minute, behind Feng Wu, everyone who had used the occult potion could see a burst of white smoke suddenly appear. Then, a cute little girl about 11 or 12 years old wearing white clothes suddenly appeared behind Feng Wu. The little girl curiously looked left and right. After discovering that she was surrounded by a blood-red mist, her entire soul felt unwell. "Heavens! Xiao Wu, how could you summon me to such a dirty place? This place is full of resentment. It's dirty and smelly." The little girl's cute little mouth was full of complaints. "Wow, what a cute spirit. I thought that spirits would all have a green face and fangs, or bleed from all 7 orifices. I didn't think that spirits could be so cute." Ruglas propped up his chin with both hands and stared at Liddy with interest. "Cute little girl, are you Liddy? You're so cute." Elena loved cute little girls the most. If it weren't for the fact that the little girl was a spirit and did not have a physical body for her to ravage, Liddy might have already buried her head in her chest and served her miserably. "Huh, you can see me?" Liddy was surprised that so many people could see her, but she immediately came to a realization. "So it's the occult potion, no wonder you can see me? Tell me, why did you call me here?" "I was having fun when you called me here," she pouted unhappily. As Feng Wu was not an expert at telling stories, the group decided to let Argyros, who was good at talking, explain the situation to the little undead girl. You're saying that there's a scary big sister upstairs who is being harassed by a lot of undead. The sky outside has turned red, the rain has turned into a bloody mist, and the whole house is covered in a bloody mist. That's it, right? Liddy simplified Ajigro's long speech into a few short sentences. That's right, that's it. Say, little girl Liddy, do you know what's going on? Why is it that we can only see the bloody rain outside after we sprayed the occult potion on it? Without the occult potion, we can't even smell anything, let alone see it. The group had a lot of doubts. Argyros finally found someone who could answer his doubts, so he could not wait to ask. Among the group, except for a few girls who had not sprayed the occult potion, the scene in the eyes of the boys and the two girls, Fengwu and Elena, was almost like Azura hell. It was said that the place where the Azuras lived was full of blood. The place they were in now was probably not much worse. Liddy rolled her eyes. During this period, Liddy had not been idle at all. Whenever she had time, she would work hard to cultivate her spiritual energy and read the book that the old magician had left for her. After a period of study, Liddy was no longer the little undead who did not know anything. Of course you can't see it. You can't be thinking that what you see now is a real bloody mist and bloody rain, right? Is it not? Everyone was puzzled as they looked at Liddy, who was looking down at them from above. Of course not. What you see now is just resentment formed by resentment. This resentment is full of killing intent, so it formed the bloody rain and bloody mist. In other words, these are not real, but just illusions formed by resentment? Skycliffe raised his eyebrows. That's right. If it's true that everyone can see it, why would we need to spray the occult potion? Liddy looked at everyone in disdain. Chapter 111. Ming Shi and the others all felt a faint sadness. The feeling of being despised by a little undead was really not good at all. Do you know why there is such a strong resentment? Ming Shi asked. There are many reasons for resentment. How would I know which one it is? Liddy looked at Ming Shi, who was speaking, and covered her face shyly. If undead could blush, her little face would definitely be red. Although I still can't see the reason for this resentment, I can see another thing. Liddy pretended to be mysterious and winked at Ming Shi with a hint of flattery in her eyes. Rugla's and the others' mouths twitched slightly. Sure enough, like Master, like Spirit. The Master liked Ming Shi, and the contract Spirit also seemed to be interested in Ming Shi. Would the relationship between the Master and the Spirit break down because of Ming Shi, and finally put on a wonderful drama of Master and Servant chasing the same man? Just as everyone was fantasizing in their hearts, a woman in green clothes and a curtain hat slowly walked down from the second floor. The whole hall suddenly quieted down. In this small inn, apart from the sound of the rain outside, it seemed that only the woman's footsteps could be heard. Leafman, the princess has ordered you to set off immediately to the town in front of us to rest. Shauna stood behind the princess and looked at Leafman as she said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. But princess, it's raining so heavily outside. It's too dangerous to travel in the rain. Leafman's duty was to protect Princess Nana. Now that the princess was going to do something dangerous, Leafman certainly wanted to stop it as soon as possible. This rain has been going on for a long time, and I don't know when it will stop. If it continues for a few days, do you want Her Royal Highness to stay in this broken inn all the time? Mayer smiled coldly. She was also a princess, and as a capable maid, Mayer would never lose her imposing manner in front of outsiders. Leafman still wanted to persuade him. Princess Nana finally spoke. Her voice was slightly cold, but it carried a natural charm. There's no need to say any more. This princess has already made up her mind. It doesn't matter what anyone says. Let's head to the town immediately. This princess must be a beauty. It's a pity that she's always wearing a veiled hat. It would be nice to see what she looks like. Argyros glanced at Princess Nana a few times. You won't be able to enjoy this beauty. I'm afraid that the changes in the surroundings of this small hotel have a lot to do with this Princess Nana. Elena smiled coldly. She didn't have the slightest good impression of Princess Nana. Because of the princess's insistence, Leafman had no choice but to order his soldiers to get ready. Not long after Princess Nana left, the entire sky began to clear up. This rain came and went without any warning, and it stopped just like that. See, there's indeed something wrong with Princess Nana. Elena had an expression of, as expected. She looked provocatively at Arguros. Arguros could only shut his mouth and not say anything. Waiter, ask your boss to come over. Ming-Shi ignored Arguros and Elena. He waved his hand at a nearby waiter. That waiter was also quick-witted. He immediately ran to call the boss over. When the boss heard that there were guests who wanted to see him, he quickly walked over. When he saw Ming-Shi and the others, he was very polite. The boss opened an hotel not far from the two-realm battlefield, so he naturally had some eyesight. With one look, he knew that this group of people weren't ordinary people. Regardless of whether they were men or women, the temperament on their bodies wasn't something that ordinary people could possess. Adventurers, may I know why you've called me here? The boss was also a smart person. The moment Princess Nana left, these people called him over. It was likely that the question they wanted to ask was related to Princess Nana. That's right. We do have a question to ask you, boss. May I ask, how much do you know about Princess Nana? Ming-Shi's elegant jade-like face had a faint smile. It was very easy for people to feel good about him. In addition to his beautiful face, it was likely that it wouldn't be easy to find someone who disliked him in this world. Princess Nana is the youngest daughter of the current Emperor Suaya. Our Emperor Suaya has a total of 3 sons and 2 daughters. The 2 daughters are a pair of twins. One is Princess Chi-Chi, and the other is naturally Princess Nana. Princess Chi-Chi has shown great talent for magic since she was young. She is currently studying in the 2nd year of the Notre Dame du Starlight. Princess Nana doesn't have any talent for magic. She has also studied magic since she was young. Princess Nana is publicly recognized as the most untalented member of the imperial family. Although Princess Nana doesn't have any talent for magic, His Highness and the Queen didn't neglect her. Although they don't dote on her as much as they do Princess Chi-Chi, they still care about her. That means that Princess Nana is also quite pitiful. The most untalented princess of the imperial family. I'm afraid that her days won't be easy. Zicheng's eyes carried a trace of pity as he spoke. It really won't be easy. If it was easy, she wouldn't come to the two-realm battlefield to train every year. She hopes that she can increase her strength. The boss nodded and agreed with Zicheng's words. You're saying that Princess Nana comes to train every year? Irene asked. That's right. She comes every year. It's just that this year is special. This is her 2nd time coming. The boss thought for a moment and said, 2nd time? When was the 1st time she came this year? Ming-Shi's brows furrowed slightly. He always felt a very unpleasant aura towards that Princess Nana, but he couldn't figure out what it was at the moment. About 4 months ago. The boss thought for a moment and replied. She came 4 months ago, and she's here again so soon. There must be a problem somewhere. Pei Biao played with his fingers. Something seemed to flash through the boss's eyes when he heard Pei Qing's words. Ming-Shi and the others naturally noticed that instant change in the boss. Boss, is there something that's hard to say? Ming-Shi looked at the boss with a warm gaze. This AI. I see that all of you are capable people. This was originally just my guess, but the town might be in trouble again. I have no choice but to ask for your help. The boss suddenly said after thinking it over. What do you mean, boss? Speak more clearly. Ajur said with a bit of impatience. He hated it the most when people spoke halfway. Wasn't that just trying to make him anxious? There's a small town not far ahead. The waiters and I all come from that small town. In the past few months, many strange things have happened in that small town. Many young girls have gotten pregnant before marriage. Those girls all said that they had never had an affair with anyone, but they suddenly became pregnant. This matter caused a huge commotion in our small town. Until one day, a girl couldn't stand the gossip and killed herself with a sword. However, something strange happened at that time. The girl wanted to kill herself, but she couldn't kill herself. No matter how many cuts she made on her body, her wounds would immediately heal. She couldn't die even if she wanted to. Chapter 112. Originally, the mayor had always thought that these young girls were unmarried and had illicit relations with men, resulting in the birth of a vile spawn. However, after the suicide of the young girl happened, The people in the town felt that something was amiss. The mayor and some elders believed that the young girls might have been attracted to a demonic creature, which is why they became pregnant. After all, the town is not far from the two-realm battlefield. It is absolutely possible that some demonic creature would come out. No, the two-realm battlefield has been sealed by a powerful being. Furthermore, those demons have long been dead. How could they possibly run out and cause trouble? Ruglas interrupted the boss when he heard this. Listen to me slowly. Don't be anxious. Aren't I just about to say it? The boss rolled his eyes at him. Ruglas obediently shut his mouth under the gloating gaze of Arguros. Everyone thought that the sudden pregnancy of the young girls must have something to do with those demons. Thus, the mayor went to the Magicians' Guild and invited a Lord Magician to find the demon that harmed the young girls. However, the magician didn't find anything after looking around. He said that the young girls couldn't have been harmed by demons. They were probably unmarried and got pregnant because of their own indecency. The mayor told the magician about the young girl who committed suicide. The magician said that the young girl who committed suicide wouldn't die no matter what. It was probably because of her special physique, or because she ate some kind of strange fruit. In any case, the magician just walked around the town and left. He didn't take any less money. Because of the magician's words, the people who were already shaken began to believe that it was really the fault of the young girls that they were impregnated by men. The young girls cried and cried, but no one believed in their innocence. In the end, the young girls were all locked up at home by their own families. They couldn't even take a step out of the house. Some parents even found abortion medicine to abort their children. However, it was useless. No matter how much abortion medicine they took, the children couldn't be aborted. The Princess Nana came to our town at the time when the matter was at its peak. The mayor was afraid that the princess would find out about those girls and have a bad opinion of our town, so he deliberately concealed the matter. Therefore, the princess didn't know about it. After the princess left, there were no more girls who suddenly got pregnant. I felt that something was wrong, so I specially went to the house of a good friend of mine. Unfortunately, my friend's daughter also encountered the same thing. I asked the child some questions and finally found the problem. The boss let out a long sigh, not knowing if he was feeling sorry for his friend's family. What is it? Tingyu looked at the boss curiously. Fengwu listened quietly, and even Liddy listened with great interest. While listening, she seemed to be thinking about something. It turns out that before those pregnant girls got pregnant, they all had a dream. In the dream, they went to a magnificent palace. In the palace, there lived a very beautiful prince. My little niece went on a date with that prince in the dream, and they had sex. At that time, my little niece only thought that it was a wet dream and didn't think much about it. It wasn't until she was pregnant that she realized that the dream wasn't simple. She started to feel afraid. During the period when the matter was blown up, my little niece also met other girls who were pregnant like her. After asking around, they all said that they met a handsome man in their dreams. When that man appeared in the girls' dreams, sometimes he said that he was a prince, sometimes he said that he was a noble. He also said that he was an ancient sword god. In short, in the mouths of those girls, that man's identity was all kinds of things, but all of them were noble and attractive. Did they all dream of the same person? Arguros touched his chin. An indescribable emotion flashed through the eyes of the others. Yes, it was the same person. My niece asked carefully, but it was the same person. The boss sighed. Strange, it's just a dream. How can I be pregnant? This is too unbelievable. Elena had been a tough girl since she was young. She dared to say anything to others. Boss, please continue. You said that after Princess Nai left, there were no more rumors of unmarried women getting pregnant in your town. Did you discover something? Although Mingxi believed that he knew a thing or two about the world's secrets, but something like getting pregnant in a dream was too unbelievable. He searched through his memories, but he couldn't remember seeing any similar records in the ancient books at home. I did discover something. The boss's expression changed. After thinking for a while, he decided to tell them what he discovered. After Princess Nana left, there were no more incidents in the town. At that time, I felt that it was strange and wanted to find out if the pregnancy of those girls was related to Princess Nana. I spent some money to hire freelance mercenaries and asked them to help me investigate if there were any rumors of unmarried girls getting pregnant. I didn't expect that I would really find out something. Ever since Princess Nai returned to the palace, nothing had happened in the capital on the surface. However, in secret, 3 ladies from aristocratic families had been found to be pregnant before marriage. The families of those ladies had wanted to secretly get rid of the children, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get rid of the children. They couldn't even take the lives of their unborn children. This was only something that happened to those noble ladies. If we count those commoner girls, I'm afraid that there will be many victims. The boss was smart. From Princess Nai's behavior, he had realized some things. After a few months of investigation by the freelance mercenaries, he was finally able to confirm that there was something wrong with Princess Nai. He just didn't know if Princess Nana knew about that thing hiding in the dark. If she knew, then why did she do it? If she didn't know, then Princess Nana was another victim. Boss, you want us to help those girls in your town find that evil monster? Zicheng looked at the boss. He admired the boss's character. At the very least, he didn't sweep the snow in front of his door. Instead, he thought of a way to ask for help. That's right. What a monster. If I'm not wrong, he has always been by Princess Nana's side. As long as he follows Princess Nana, we will definitely be able to catch that monster. The boss chatted with Ming Shi and the others for a while before leaving. Ming Shi and the others were still discussing this matter. How was it? Liddy, did you think of anything after hearing what the boss said? Ajur turned to look at Liddy. The others also turned to look at her at the same time. After all, there wasn't a single necromancer among them. What happened this time was obviously related to the supernatural. Chapter 113. None of them knew about this kind of thing, so they could only count on the little ghost Liddy. This is very unusual. You have to go to that town as soon as possible. Otherwise, all the people in the town will die. Liddy's eyes darkened. Is it that serious? Skycliffe raised his eyebrows. Yes, it is. This is very unusual. If you want to get involved, go there as soon as possible. If you don't want to get involved, I advise you to go as far away as possible. No one in that town will survive. Seeing that Liddy didn't look like she was joking, everyone's heart sank. They all knew that they were in big trouble this time. There are so many people in that town. As students of the Notre Dame du Starlight, how can we not care about the lives of those ordinary people? We have to get involved. Ruglas was so excited that he pounded the table with his fist, making the cups on the table jump. Ruglas is right. We can't just ignore it. The Notre Dame du Starlight will accept help from ordinary people. This time, we have to accept the boss's request. Mingshi nodded. Mingshi had already made up his mind to go to the town where the incident happened. In the Notre Dame du Starlight, besides guarding the gate, the guards were also responsible for receiving ordinary people. If there were any strange things that they couldn't solve in their homes, or if they found traces of magic beasts, they could go to the Notre Dame du Starlight for help. Solving problems that could only be solved by swordsmen and magicians was also a kind of training for the students of the Sacred Institute. Of course, the Notre Dame du Starlight wouldn't take a penny for doing this for ordinary people. Although the Notre Dame du Starlight didn't take money to help ordinary people, it didn't mean that the school would help with everything. If it was just a family matter, the teachers of the Sacred Institute would never agree to help. What was happening in this small town had obviously reached the level where the Sacred Academy had to take action. As students of the Sacred Academy, they had no reason to refuse. Junior sisters, don't go. It's too dangerous this time. Stay here and wait. As a good senior who loved her juniors, Elena naturally didn't want anything to happen to these girls who had just entered the school. Senior, I'll go with you guys. I'll take good care of myself and won't create trouble for the seniors. Irene looked at Elena, using a resolute gaze to express her determination to go. I'll go too. Seniors, please don't worry. I have some confidence in my own strength. I won't be a burden. Zicheng said with the same determined look in his eyes. Then I want to go too. I want to be with Xiao Cheng. Eve didn't want to be separated from Zicheng. Originally, she didn't want to go. It was just a dream and she got pregnant. That was too scary. If it wasn't because Zicheng wanted to go, and it was just Eve alone, she definitely wouldn't mind staying here to watch over them. I'll stay. My strength is too weak compared to the seniors. I don't want to distract them. Rika spoke up at this moment. Elena had thought that Rika would insist on following them. She didn't expect that Rika could see it clearly. What Rika said was right. No matter how strong the freshmen were, there was still a huge gap between them and the seniors. Even if Zicheng and Irene said that they would protect them and wouldn't be a burden, when the time came, how could they, as seniors, leave them in the lurch? Zicheng and Irene were still fine. Both of them had outstanding performances among the freshmen this year. Even if they couldn't compare to a juror, it wouldn't be a problem for them to get into the top 10 of the year. As for Eve, it would be good enough if she could get into the top 50 of the year, not to mention the others. If she wanted to go with them, she would just be cannon fodder and a burden. Elena and the others were a little displeased that Eve couldn't see through her own strength and was still pestering them to the point that she was determined to go. They thought that Rika was also a muddle-headed person. They didn't expect that Rika would see things clearly and know what to say at this moment. Unlike Eve, who only had Zicheng in her eyes and didn't think about anything else. Irene saw Eve's performance and secretly frowned. She suddenly thought of something. When she read the novel before, she felt that Eve was abnormally good to Zicheng. It wasn't just Eve. Many people who liked Zicheng and had a favorability level of 100 were too impatient with Zicheng. She thought of the novel's description of the favorability system. As long as the favorability level reached 100, the favorability level would never decrease. In the past, she didn't think much of it, but now that she took a closer look, she realized that the favorability level would never decrease. Didn't that mean that as long as someone's favorability level for Zicheng reached 100, no matter what Zicheng did to them, they would forgive him? Maybe even if Zicheng stabbed them, they would be glad that they died in the hands of their good friend. She really didn't think about it. Thinking about it, so many people in the novel were willing to die for Zicheng. Was this normal? If it was only a man, it would be fine. It could be said that this guy loved Zicheng so much that he didn't even care about his life. However, those who died for Zicheng included a few women. They were Zicheng's good friends. She remembered that in the novel, one of Zicheng's roommates knew that Zicheng needed a piece of rare ore. She actually snuck into her family's ancestral land and stole a piece of the family heirloom, a piece of meteorite, and gave it to Zicheng. Later, Zicheng's friend was chased out of the house because of this. That girl even said that she didn't regret doing this and was willing to do anything for her good friend. The introduction of that girl in the novel also said that she was a pampered child of her family. That piece of rare or had a mysterious power and had always been the symbol of her family's glory. The girl knew this since she was young. However, for the sake of a good friend, she stole her family's treasure and betrayed her entire family. If Zicheng was in danger at that time and urgently needed this thing to save his life, it would make sense. At that time, Zicheng only needed that piece of meteorite to repair the divine weapon she brought out of the tomb of the gods. Although the ores that could repair divine weapons were rare in the world. However, to steal the family's treasure just to help a friend repair a divine weapon, it was believed that no noble girl who had been educated since she was young would do such a thing. This kind of symbolic treasure was unique to every family. As a noble girl who had been pampered since she was young, that girl's actions were too inconceivable. The strangest thing was that after that girl was chased out of the house, Zicheng said that it was all because of her. Therefore, in front of that girl, he swore that he would make that family regret driving her out. Chapter 114. Later on, Zicheng became more and more powerful. With a divine artifact in his hand, he ran to the family and severely injured the family's patriarch and elders. He even said that they were too cruel to the girl and that they were inhumane. She was taking revenge for the girl they had driven away. Now that he had beaten them up, both sides didn't owe each other anything. When he saw this, he only felt that the family deserved it. But now that he thought about it, what did they do? Was it wrong to drive out a sinner who had betrayed the family? Moreover, they only drove the girl out and didn't destroy her magic source. This was already much better than the other sinners who had been driven out of the family. That family's love for the girl was very deep. Otherwise, the girl's betrayal would have been enough to put her to death. However, They didn't expect that a moment of pity would bring such a big hidden danger to the family. After Zicheng left after injuring the family's people, the family was suppressed by many forces. The ones who attacked were all the supporting male leads who admired Zicheng. Those supporting male leads didn't show any mercy. A good family was gone just like that. After the family lost their power, they were all killed. It could be said that their end was very miserable. Originally, the family's patriarch and several elders were rare experts. But because they were injured by Zicheng, their foundation was damaged. For a short period of time, they couldn't fight with others. If it weren't for this, the family wouldn't have been destroyed so quickly. Zicheng didn't hide this matter from the girl. After the girl found out, she just said that she didn't have a family. The life and death of those people had nothing to do with her. Not only was she not sad, she was also secretly moved by everything that Zicheng had done for her. From then on, she became even more loyal. Was all of this normal? If the girl had been treated unfairly by the family since she was young, it was understandable that she didn't care about the life and death of the family. But she had been doted on since she was young. Which elder in the family didn't love and care for her? Even when she stole the family's treasure, they couldn't bear to kill her. Her family, who loved her so much, had died, but she was thanking the person who had indirectly harmed her family. If it was a normal person, no one would do such a thing. Irene was now certain that once the favorability value of the favorability system reached 100, that person's emotions would be affected by Zicheng. No matter what Zicheng did, those people would feel that it was right. This ability to manipulate people in the palm of his hand was too terrifying. Irene felt a chill run down her spine. Fortunately, she had read the book beforehand and knew the fate of the female lead's golden finger and this body's original body. If she had transmigrated into this body without knowing anything, she might have developed feelings for the female lead. In that case, what was the difference between her and Eve, who could only live around Zicheng? While Irene's thoughts were spinning, the others were discussing the list of names for this trip to the town. After Rika said that she wouldn't go, she sat there quietly, not saying anything else. Rika wasn't Eve. Wherever Zicheng went, she would follow. A large part of the reason she hung out with Zicheng was that Zicheng was a good person. Rika liked her gentle, considerate, and kind personality. However, she didn't have any good feelings towards Eve. I'm not going either. My strength isn't that high, so I'll stay here and wait for news. Tingyu wrinkled her cute little nose. Although she really wanted to go and watch the show, in order not to be a burden, it was better for her to wait here. Eve, you should stay here too. With your strength, it'll be very dangerous to go rashly. Seeing that the other party was also a girl, Elena chose to persuade her. If it was a guy who didn't understand the situation, she would definitely use her iron sand palm on him. No, I must go. I won't be at ease if little Chung goes alone. Eve held onto Zicheng's hand, her little face full of stubbornness and determination. Elena and the others were silent. Was she treating them as if they weren't human? Suddenly, they felt like beating someone up. Urgent, waiting online. Senior Elena, let Eve go. I'll definitely look after her and won't let anything happen to her. Zicheng saw that Eve was so concerned about her, and she couldn't say no, so he could only say this to Elena. Pei Qing and Tingfeng exchanged glances. You'll look after her? When the time comes, I'm afraid you won't be able to protect yourself. Is there something wrong with this girl's brain? Senior Elena, if she wants to go, then let her go. When the time comes, we won't be blamed if anything happens to her. Pei Qing smiled like a fox. Don't worry, I can take care of myself. Eve glared hatefully at Pei Qing. She hated people who walked together with Fengwu from the bottom of her heart. There was a saying, hate the house, hate the crow. In the end, the people who would go to the small town together were decided. Other than Rika and Tingyu, everyone else would go. Fengwu was Liddy's master, so she definitely had to go. After reaching the small town, there would be many places where Liddy would be of use. This time, the boss threw caution to the wind and took the initiative to lead the way. Although the boss did business on the main road, his family still lived in the small town. According to Fengwu and the others, the small town was about to be flooded with blood. No matter what, the boss had to go and bring his family out. Behind the small inn, there was a carriage that the boss used to travel. This time, Everyone got on the boss's carriage and headed to the small town together. An ordinary small carriage sped along the main road. There was a kind of deathly silence along the way. Even the usual sounds of insects and birds on both sides of the road couldn't be heard. Everyone's heart sank. They hoped that they could make it in time. After the carriage sped along for an hour, they finally arrived at the small town that the boss mentioned. Unexpectedly, the small town was very quiet. There were pedestrians bargaining and buying things on the street. There were also young mothers eating snacks on the street with their children. No matter how they looked at it, it didn't look like a big shot came to the small town. Not only Ming Shi and the others were confused, but even the boss was confused. Logically speaking, Princess Nana's beast carriage should be faster than their small carriage. How did they get ahead of Princess Nana? Boss, go home now and take your family out of here. After Ming Shi and the others entered the city, they immediately told the boss that this was what they had agreed on when they were in the carriage. The family members of the boss's servants were also here, and the boss had to take them all away. This workload was not to be underestimated. The boss nodded fiercely, then turned around and wanted to go home first and take the family members of his staff with him. Wait a minute. You can take anyone you want, but remember, you can't take those pregnant girls away. If you take them away, even if you escape with your family members, you won't be able to survive. Feng Wu rarely said so much. Chapter 115. Of course, it wasn't Feng Wu who said those words. It was Liddy who told Feng Wu and asked Feng Wu to pass it on to the boss. The boss, of course, agreed repeatedly. Then, he drove the car in the direction of his home and disappeared around the corner at the fastest speed possible. Spray the occult potion on them. It's obviously useless, but they still followed us in. How can they help when they can't see their spirit bodies? Liddy wasn't polite at all when she ordered people around. Now that they had encountered a supernatural incident, it was Liddy's home ground. If they wanted to save people, they had to listen to Liddy's words. Speaking of which, this feeling wasn't bad. It was a pity that they probably wouldn't have the chance to enjoy this kind of treatment in the future. Everyone agreed with Liddy's words. Wasn't it a little too early for these juniors to want to clear a high-level dungeon? Zicheng and Irene were a little better. At the very least, they had a certain level of strength. As for Eve, she was a cynical and brain-damaged young lady. As the only senior present, Elena's job of communicating with the juniors naturally fell to her. She told them about the occult potion. Zicheng and Irene readily agreed to drip the occult potion. Eve, on the other hand, had an ugly expression on her face for a full minute. Then, with Zicheng's persuasion, she reluctantly dripped the occult potion. Eve's reluctance was naturally seen by everyone. Their impression of her dropped again. They just couldn't bring themselves to like Eve. When the three of them were done drinking the potion, the world in their eyes changed. It was clear that the sky was clear and the sun was shining brightly. But now, they could see that the blue sky had turned red. This red color was too abnormal. It made people feel depressed just looking at it. In addition to the red, they could also see streaks of black. These streaks of black constantly drifted around the town. When the three girls suddenly saw this scene that could make ordinary people faint, their faces immediately turned as white as paper. Zicheng and Irene were a little better. After all, they were both people with strong minds. What a joke. If they fainted from such a scene, they wouldn't have the qualifications to be the transmigrating female lead and the counterattacking female lead. Of the three girls, the one who was the most helpless was naturally Eve. She was so scared that her legs went soft and she fell to the ground. She couldn't get up and she kept letting out ear-piercing screams. What's going on? Is this girl sick? Send her to the doctor. She's so sick, we can't delay her treatment. What's going on ahead? I don't know. I just got here. I also want to ask what happened. The townspeople who were attracted by Eve's screams surrounded Feng Wu and the others and pointed at them. More and more people surrounded them, but Eve continued to scream without any awareness. Zicheng looked at the others awkwardly and quickly squatted beside Eve. She wanted to help her up. Most importantly, she couldn't let her scream anymore. Zicheng was a smart girl. She could already see that the seniors and Elena were getting more and more dissatisfied. Feng Wu's people looked like they were going to make a fool of themselves. Irene, who she couldn't see through the most, looked like she didn't want to meddle in other people's business. Seeing everyone's reaction, she knew that if she didn't stop Eve, she would be angered by the seniors and the others. Zicheng thought that with her comforting, Eve would calm down quickly. She didn't expect Eve to continue screaming. She even pushed her best friend Zicheng away as if she had seen a ghost. Zicheng didn't expect Eve to hit her, so Eve's push was very successful. Zicheng, who was as beautiful as a little fairy, was pushed to the ground by Eve and rolled half a circle. Her beautiful clothes were dirty in an instant. She looked less beautiful and more miserable. Eve. Zicheng frowned. She felt a little helpless at Eve's ignorance. At the same time, she was also a little angry. Ever since she came to this world, she hadn't been taken advantage of by anyone. She didn't expect that the first person to hurt her would be her best friend. Although she was already dissatisfied with Eve, Zicheng was the female lead. As a strong female lead, how could she let others see through her thoughts so easily? Therefore, to outsiders, they could only see that Zicheng was confused and worried about being pushed down by her best friend. This girl was really kind-hearted. She was pushed down, but she still cared about her friend. Some of the onlookers who didn't know the truth started to have a good impression of Zicheng, who was wholeheartedly trying to help her friend. Didn't she see that there were so many people around the screaming girl, but only the purple-haired girl wanted to help? The others, who looked like decent people, didn't even want to help a weak girl. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover. Ming-Shi, what do we do now? Elena, I don't know. Skycliff, I don't know these people. Ruglas and Arguros, I'm not online. Please leave a message if you have something to say. Tingfeng, Peiqing, Ajur. As seniors, why didn't you do anything? Fengwu girl, so noisy. After a round of eye contact, it was obvious that no one was good at dealing with the situation. In the end, Fengwu felt that Eve was too noisy. She walked over and pressed on her mute acupoint. The piercing scream stopped. Eve, who had been screaming, found that she couldn't make a sound. She stared at Fengwu in panic and hatred. Take her to take medicine. Master said to take medicine when sick. This girl must be sick. Look at how much pain she is screaming. Fengwu girl nodded seriously. Everyone. The world finally quieted down. Seeing that there was no more drama to watch, the crowd finally dispersed. Although the town wasn't big, there were many residents. There were at least a few dozen people surrounding them, but they all left in 2 minutes. Although there were still people who glanced in their direction from time to time, it was still better than being in a small town. However, compared to being surrounded by people just now, this was already quite good treatment. Everyone expressed that if this was all, they could still tolerate it. After everyone left, Eve was pulled into a small alley. After she was out of sight, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They regretted bringing Eve to this place. Fengwu, what did you do to Eve? Why can't she talk? After Eve lost her voice, she regained all her rationality. When she remembered that it was all thanks to Fengwu that she became like this, her eyes were filled with poison. From time to time, she wanted to kill Fengwu with her gaze. Chapter 116. Eve wanted to ask what Fengwu had done to her, but she couldn't make a sound, so naturally, she couldn't ask. She could only look at Zicheng for help. Zicheng was still very protective of his own people. Although he was already dissatisfied with Eve, he couldn't let others bully his own people. Thus, after receiving Eve's pleading gaze, Zicheng still helped Eve ask a question. Of course, when she asked, she didn't use an aggressive attitude. She just expressed her concern. There were others who were also curious about Fengwu's move. What kind of magic was this? She just touched a person's body and they couldn't move? Was there such a magic that could freeze a person's body? I sealed her acupoints. After 2 hours, it will automatically unseal. Fengwu glanced at Eve, ignoring her venomous gaze. It really was sealing her acupoints. Zicheng and Irene were both shocked by Fengwu's answer. Zicheng, Irene. Could it be that Fengwu was also a transmigrator? But in the modern world, they hadn't heard of anyone who knew how to seal acupoints. Although sealing acupoints was a necessary scene in all wuxia novels, it had never appeared in real life. The two people who originally suspected that Feng Wu was a transmigrator hesitated. It seemed that they still had to find an opportunity to test her. The female lead and the supporting female almost simultaneously made this decision in their hearts. Can you undo it now? Ziqing already had some thoughts about Feng Wu, but on the surface, others could only see her concern for her good friend from her face. It was impossible to guess that this girl's heart had already gone in circles.
Yes.
Feng Wu nodded. Then, after thinking for a while, she added, but I'm afraid she'll scream. It's really noisy. Don't undo it. Otherwise, our Xiaowu will have to do it again. With her guts, I'm afraid that if something really happens, her throat will be broken from screaming. In order to not let her loud voice affect the rest of us, I personally suggest that we let her continue. What do you all think? Tingfeng didn't like Eve to begin with, especially the way she looked at Feng Wu. It was as if she wanted to eat her alive. Now that there was a ready-made opportunity to mess with her, no matter what, she wouldn't let it go so easily. That's right. I'm a very sensitive person. If I hear her high-pitched scream in battle, it's very likely that it will affect my performance. This is a very big threat to my safety, so I agree with Tingfeng's suggestion. Pei Qing raised his hand and didn't want to fall behind. Ahem. Since everyone has agreed, then Junior Eve, you'll have to bear with it for a while. After 2 hours, you'll be able to speak again. It's fine. Although Elena was more tolerant towards girls, she didn't indulge them unconditionally. Eve's personality wasn't good, her temper was bad, and she had a lot of problems. Even Elena, who was tolerant towards girls, didn't like her. If she could make Eve calm down, Elena naturally didn't mind adding fuel to the fire. Senior. Ziqing wanted to persuade her again, but the others didn't give her the chance. They ignored Eve and began to discuss what to do next. Why? Why is it like this again? What's so good about that Feng Wu? Why are you all protecting her like this? She's just a commoner. A damned commoner. Eve's heart was screaming crazily. She hated Feng Wu to the core. She was disliked twice by the team because of Feng Wu. This woman was her nemesis. No matter how much Eve hated Feng Wu, other than Ziqing, no one else would look at her. Ming Shi and the others were all focused on discussing what to do next. At this moment, Aaron also noticed that the spirit named Lydia was actually a 12-year-old little girl. Moreover, she was a very cute little girl. It was quite pitiful for her to die at such a young age. After sympathizing a little with Lydia, Irene hurriedly cooperated with Elena to discuss what to do next. Let's go find those pregnant girls. I have something to confirm. In the end, it was still Lydia who made the decision. According to Ming Shi's suggestion, they should inform the mayor and arrange for the commoners to leave this town as soon as possible. Unfortunately, this idea was rejected by Lydia. You can't go. Everyone's fate in this world is predetermined. Many people here are destined to die today. Even if you let them escape, they will meet Princess Nana and the others on the way. At that time, they will only die faster. Ever since Lydia learned some knowledge about spirit cultivation, she had a certain understanding of some of the fates of life and death in this world. She knew that fate was irreversible. The reason she saved the boss's family was because she saw that the boss's fate was profound and wouldn't die so easily. However, this town was shrouded in blood. The possibility of escaping was too small. Even if they escaped, they would enter another death trap. Ming Shi and the others were still very unwilling. With so many lives, how could they not save them just like that? They couldn't bear to see so many innocent commoners die. Thus, Ming Shi decided to split into 2 groups. One group would go find those pregnant girls, and the other group would go to the mayor's house to prepare to ask the mayor to evacuate the commoners. There were only 2 people going to the mayor's house. One was Ming Shi, and the other was Elena. The others and Feng Wu went to find the pregnant girls to understand what happened. After Ming Shi and Elena left, the others immediately moved. Ziqing agreed with what Lydia had said just now. Because she could get a chance to transmigrate, this made her believe that there really was fate in this world. Irene was somewhat dissatisfied. She didn't believe in fate. Even if Ziqing was destined to be the female lead, she would definitely succeed in her counterattack. Similarly, even if the people in this town were destined to die, so what? Humans could conquer the heavens. She didn't believe that she couldn't go against the will of heaven. Irene's fighting spirit was high. She really wanted to see if this town could really survive with the help of Ming Shi and the others. If the people in this town could be saved, did this also prove that her counterattack against the female lead would eventually succeed? The town wasn't big. After walking for about 10 minutes, they arrived at the first house. The daughter of this house was already more than 5 months pregnant. Although it was only 5 months, her belly was so big that it looked like she was 8 or 9 months pregnant. It made people tremble in fear. After the girl's mother heard that Feng Wu and the others were adventurers, she immediately welcomed them in as if she had seen hope. The girl's house was very old and dilapidated. It was obvious that the family situation was not very good. The girl who was brought out was only 18 years old, but her eyes were lifeless and lifeless. It was as if she was waiting for death. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.